out of apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
What's good? You are tuned to Apartment 5B podcast, hosted by your man, Kel. I got my squad with me. In effect, as always, I got my brother, Vague, from BK. What's going on, bro?
I'm on my jazz kick today. Spiritual jazz strategies.
All right. Yeah. All right, no doubt. We got my brother, JR, out of BK. What's good, bro?
R&B representing as always. I missed the last episode, so it's good to be back, yo.
Hey, man. Always good to have y'all back in effect. Y'all know me. Let's jump right into it. After we give a super duper shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles for stomping and beating the fucking shit out of the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what I mean? That was my whole thing going into this game. We got to beat the fuck out of them. We cannot leave this in the referee's hands. This cannot be we up 3 points with 4 minutes left. We cannot. This like a Vague. I know you're a boxing fan. Like at the end of the day, you gotta knock this nigga out, because if you leave it up to the judge's hands, they're gonna give it to him. I don't care what happens. You gotta knock this nigga the fuck out. We knocked him out. Salute to my squad. Salute to my city. I hope there's a city left after tomorrow, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because we will tear a city down and build that shit back up and tear the shit down again. So I mean, we tore the city down when we beat the Redskins. Then we tore the city down when we won, and they had to rebuild it for the parade. So prayerfully we won't tear it down no more. But it is what it is. Yo, so let's jump right into this. So here's the thing. This week's topic is all about there's a sign on the door, no biting allowed. That's one of my favorite hip-hop quotables. Master Ace from the Symphony. Just an incredible lyric to just break down what hip-hop used to be. Hip-hop used to be based off originality. There was no biting. If you bit somebody's style, that was a hip-hop sin. But it's not anymore. Now it's almost just like, biting. Nobody even cares no more. It's like any rules that were in hip hop, I feel like they're all thrown out, and it's just the wild, wild west out here. So we're going to look at why it was a hip hop sin, when it stopped becoming a hip hop sin. We're going to look at 5 different times in hip hop and R&B when there was this is just blatant bites, but then we're going to also talk about biting versus influence. So I got a couple of things on my list that I'm like, is this biting or was this influence? And is there a difference between the two? But here's the thing. This is how I got on this topic. For people who know, I used to cut hair. I still cut my own hair. So my clippers broke and I couldn't temp fade my hair. And I started thinking, damn, I remember in Vague, I don't know if you remember this while you was at Morgan. Back in the early to mid 90s, the only niggas who had temp fades was boys from PG County and DC. That was it. That was their style. Like in 92 when I came, if you saw a nigga with a temp fade, you already knew from the rip. The boys from DC or PG. There was a time when this beard right here, if you had a beard like this, you were from Philly. That was it. There was no, I remember I saw a nigga with a beard like this 10, 12 years ago. It was like, yo, what part you from? It wasn't even like, are you from Philly? Nigga, I know you're from Philly. Where you from? Uptown, north, southwest, where you from? Now, anybody, big beards are just anything. So it had me thinking like, damn, it's like not only the music, but even specific city styles aren't that anymore. You know what I mean? Like there was a time like, Vague, same thing. The majority of niggas, probably outside of me, outside of New York, did not wear fatigues. Like they just didn't. You know what I mean? Like that was a New York City thing to wear fatigues. I probably was the only Philly nigga who was rocking fatigues. You know what I mean? But it's almost just like all, not just in the music, but even in the styles of clothing and the way we dress. You could be at Morgan and look at somebody and be like, they from New York. They from DC. You know what I mean? Back in the day, they used to wear the when they would rock shorts, they were the only niggas who would wear high socks. I remember coming to Morgan like, yo, what's up with these niggas with these high socks? With socks all the way up to the damn knees or whatever. But that was a DC thing. So, and it made me think that that's how hip hop used to be. Like, you knew that's a Public Enemy beat. That was the Public Enemy sound. And Public Enemy didn't sound like anything like EPMD. And EPMD didn't sound anything like NWA. And NWA didn't sound anything like Kid and Play, who didn't sound anything like, you know, fucking Eric B. and Rakim. But why do you think, like, why was biting back in the day of hip hop sin? And I thought about this. And Veg, I don't know if you remember, but I was thinking about this. When is the first time you actually heard about somebody biting something? And I know for me, it was Beat Street. It was 84 when Lee is doing doing his thing at the little house party, and his man come over and he's like, yo, then the Rocksteady crew do a little something. He was like, yo, man, all y'all moves is biters. Y'all whack, man. So what's up with that? And then dude be like, yo, I ain't never stole no moves from you. You know what I mean? All your moves is work the bitch. And who you calling a punk? And then they start shoving. But that was the first time I heard somebody be like, you biting. Because it's 84. You know what I mean? The only hip hop I really knew was Run DMC, Curtis Blow. You know what I mean? The Message. So it was like, that was the first time I'm like, okay, so biting somebody's shit is whack. Biting your moves or biting your flair, whatever you do is whack. Veg, do you remember the first time that you even heard biting, or the first time it kind of entered your head like, I gotta be original?
It might be the same thing, but you know, I was younger, so if you're talking like 84, I'm what, 7? But I've been into hip hop because it was all around me. So like I was into it when I was 2. You know what I'm saying? But I just didn't know it was more about the music and what looked fun and cool. But I think it's a movie thing. If it's a movie thing, it had to do with some graffiti shit. Because I didn't know there was competition with graffiti. You know, I always looked at the battles with the breakdancers and stuff like that. But yeah, when they were talking about copying tags and stuff like that, that's when I was like, oh. And you know, obviously you're thinking, be your own person, be original. Right. But it wasn't later where it was like, oh, it's kind of like a rule, because now I'm hearing rappers saying it, I'm hearing DJs saying that's my scratch, and so it's some rules. And again, you start to think, well, if I'm gonna do any of these things, how can I be original? But yeah, it's probably definitely really early for me. So.
Right, JR, what about you? And tell me this too, bro. Do you feel like that was ever anywhere in the R&B like realm? Like, you know, was Motown like, yo, them niggas Stacks over there, they biting our shit? Or, you know, was another label, like, was the, you know, Stylistics like, yo, fuck them Temptation niggas, they be doing what we do? Like,
I think a lot of the imaging was the same, because I think in the 60s it had to be, because that's when there was kind of the crossover thing that happened. But when you got to like the 70s, it was still that. It was still like our male groups. That's why I didn't like a lot of them. The only ones that I really was digging was the OJs, to be honest, because everybody else was the Blue Magic, Stylists, Delphonics, all of them. They had the same image. It was like 5 niggas with fucking afros and suits. That was it. Right. So it was like, is that all? So, but again, it took me away from the music. So I'm like, they just biting each other's style. That's what I thought then. And then me more getting into it, my mom was like, no, they're not the same. And once I realized that, it was like, oh, because I'd be like, Ma, ain't they copying each other? She like, I see where you're going with it, but no, you know what I mean? So that's when I first started. And then with sampling, and my mom was like, nah, you hear that sample? That person had it first and all of this. So I started getting into that a little early because of mom, to be honest. So, yeah. Okay.
All right. And your first times that you heard about biting in hip hop, like, can you remember?
I'm trying to think, because my dad really wasn't in it like that. Like, he loved hip hop like that, but he really didn't discuss it like that. So it became more of, honestly, me learning a little on my own. And then obviously with you guys, So a lot of biting. I was like, oh, they were biting them. Like when y'all talked about the whole thing about what is what is their name? Oh God, Dawes Effect.
Yeah.
Yes. When y'all started that, I was like, oh, that's what all of them was doing after them. They was the ones that started that. And so it was with y'all that I started learning a lot of that. Now my dad would probably know the songs like that, but he wasn't really into the just like that. He knew the songs and that's it. But knowing, learning from y'all, it was like, oh, that's where that came from. Because I never knew that Effects was the one. And it was like, oh, y'all was like, no, that's biting. They started this. So I really learned a lot from y'all. So
it's funny because through this show I want to try to pinpoint where it first started happening, and I want to see if y'all see with this. I think one of the first things we did, and this was way back live from the writer's bench, and I talked about how we did a show on how Illmatic ruined hip hop. You know what I mean? And whenever I say that, people get upset, like, what the fuck you mean? It's the greatest hip hop album ever. And I'm like, yo, Illmatic, it wasn't the first, because the first time was the Youngster's second album, The Aftermath. And what I mean by the first time, The Aftermath was the first time that they had a whole bunch of the dopest producers produce their album. They had KG, they had the Beat Nuts, they had Premier, they had Pete, I think they had Marley on there. And at that time, nobody ever did that because, and for people watching, every crew had their own production. So EPMD and the Hit Squad, Eric or Parrish, whoever did the beats, we still don't know to this day, but it was in-house. Everything was in-house. Public Enemy was in-house. Everybody. So this is why nobody sounded alike, because everybody had their own producer. Herbie did Kid and Play, Salt and Pepper, Kwame, Kid and Play, Dane, Sweet Tea. That was, every crew had their own producer who was holding it down. Mm-hmm. So for me, and Vega, I don't know what you think about this. I think the first time I could, and it wasn't a bite, but I think this was the first time we had seen this, or I saw it, Cube going to get with the Bomb Squad. That was the first time that I had seen somebody who wasn't down with the crew go into another crew to get beats. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh shit, it was almost like, damn, you could do that? Like, because I had never seen that before. Like, came the whole Juice Crew, that was all Marley. It's not like Biz could go over here. No, if you was in the Juice Crew, Marley did all your beats. So to me, it's almost like Cube kind of opened the door to say like, oh shit, you mean we can go to different places? And I felt like Illmatic was the first thing that kind of made it. I call them like Happy Meal beats. Like you could go and be like, yo, I want 2 Premiers and 1 Pete Rock and 2 Timberlands and a Swiss Beats, and like that's how I get my album. And then that's how the sound started merging together and everything like that. Veg, what do you think? What do you think is one of the first moments that you can remember that kind of was like you're starting to see people bite things?
Lyrically?
Mm-hmm. Anything. I mean, lyrically, like just,
Yeah, I think honestly, it's on my list, but I'm gonna talk a little bit more about it. But
all right,
I think Jay-Z. I think when Jay-Z started going too far with the big references, especially the references that came from the mixtapes and not songs that you would know. Like we would know them, but someone who doesn't know may think this is an original Jay-Z bar, right? Mm-hmm. If he's not setting it up to let you know it's big. And then he started trying to overcompensate for what people were saying about that. And then he started using Snoop and Eminem and Pac and just everybody, you know what I'm saying? Right. And to me, that said, especially to a newer generation, oh, it's okay. It's okay to go that far. Because previously, and it happened, right? Because Jay wasn't the first to do something like that.
Right.
It was about flipping the line. Right? Give you enough to remind you of the line and who it came from, and then flip it a little bit. So you're like, okay, that's so much. But when he the rings and things you think about, bring them out, and he gets sampled on a T.I. song instead of Big, that's crazy. Because it's Big's line sampled.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I was like, oh, well, it's almost like, not to be political, but like January 6th, right? When it was pushing them gates, and then all of a sudden you just see them just open, just go to fucking the White House and do what you got to do. It felt like he opened the floodgates. And I mean, there's a couple people on my list who benefited from Jay making it okay to do that. So.
Right. It's funny. I don't know if you guys remember in XXL, they used to have a section, and I think it was like, who said it better? And they would do things like that. Like, they would look at Slick Rick said this originally, and then Mos Def or somebody else said that. And it was like, who said it better? And like you said, I want to get with that because that's definitely on my list. And then I know, again, for me, I remember MC Light's 10% this, the whole beat biter, you know what I mean? And it was kind of just like, yo, what happened? Like, what did Antoinette do? And it was like, they used the same drums from Top Billin', for Herbie used that for I Got an Attitude, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like, this whole beat biter, dope style taker, show to your face, you ain't nothing but a faker. It was like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, okay, like that's what we doing now. JR, what about you in R&B? Like in the 80s, did you feel like there was any biting going on? Like, this nigga jacked his style or, anything like that?
That wasn't the first for me. When I started really getting into music, for me, my first time when I was like, okay, this is a complete bite, is when Monifa did I Miss You and used the same joint of Mary's All Night Long. I was like, okay, all right, wait a minute. And then I started to say, okay, Mary, I see why you mad now. Because I'm like, all of these girls are coming out using your style and then using your image and all of this. But at first I was like, okay, the image, and okay, fine, they want to use the hip hop, R&B mix or whatever. But when I first heard that Monifa, I Miss You, I was like, whoa. I was like, and then it was Hev, part of Uptown. Mary's on Uptown. I was like, the MCA thing. I was like, wait a minute. This is a complete bite. And I was like,
now tell me this. So Mary was pissed about that?
Oh, she was mad. It added on some fuel to the fire because it was like Faith comes out using her straight producer, quote unquote, that was hers. Then you got the imaging of Faith in Mary's image. Then you got all these new girls that's coming out that's using her image as well. Then now Monifa comes out with the same sample she used, and they didn't change anything that she did for All Night Long and use it for I Miss You, and we're on the same label. At least everybody else wasn't even on the label with her. You got Monifa actually on Uptown MCA. Like, it's like blatant. It's like, all right, damn. Like, and it's
now what I want people watching to understand that Monifa literally just used the Mary Jane drums. Yep. You know what I mean? From All Night Long. That's it. And back in the day, that's all you had to use was somebody's drums. You know what I mean? And that was enough. Like, because she didn't sample they didn't use the same sample. It was just the drums and how the song started with the drums.
But then my mother kind of had got me together with it because I was like, Mom, they used that. She was like, well, no. She was like, well, then, okay, we can rock with Mary at that point. But she was like, what about I Scratch with I Take Her and Mary using Be Happy? It's the same thing. She was like, because I Scratch and Brian McKnight they were out first. But as soon as Mary came out with Be Happy, that kind of pushed them up, and you kind of forgot about it, and it was all Mary. So at the end of the day, my mom was like, that was a bite. So if you're going to go there, you got to go there too. So then that's when I started.
I love it, bro. You just opened up a whole floodgates that I didn't even think about for this show, just with sampling bites. I was talking
about that because me and my mom, when I was watching the performance on Apollo, and I was like, I remember my mother telling me that because I was so like, Ma, they stole the same drums that Mary uses. She was like, well, Chucky and quote unquote that fool used the same freaking Curtis Mayfield joint that they used.
Yo, here's the joint. Mary's Be Happy was so big, I forgot about Ill
And
Now
that's what I'm
Scratches.
saying. My mother was like,
I forgot all about that they used the same sample.
The same sample came out the same year, the same all of this. But theirs came out first. But once we came with Be Happy, that was it. But it was a complete bite because they changed nothing. Like they didn't add anything, no extra.
Here's a funny story too. Trey said he used that the same Curtis Mayfield sample.
He did.
And that Puff had heard it in the studio, and then came Mary's Be Happy. So you just open up a whole floodgates.
I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect, bro. I wasn't thinking about the sample stuff, everything like that. So let's look at it like this. One of the first things, JR, you said it, Das Effects is Iggity style.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Everybody doing that. For me, that was a bite. Somebody else may say influence, because I always tell people we have different definitions for the same word. You know what I mean? So as best as we can, I want to try to even our definitions of the difference, you know. So to me, the Das thing was a bite because nobody was doing the iggity, stiggity, diggity, biggity style before. You know what I mean? And then everybody started doing it to a point that I felt like Das was like, yo, we got to dead this because everybody's doing it. Like it's not even dope no more, which almost then ruins the style, you know. And it's almost similar to me how I feel about Steph Curry. There was a point when Steph Curry was must-see basketball. It was like, yo, this dude is shooting shots from half court, you know. But now it's kind of boring because it's like we've seen that shit before and everybody's doing it now. You know what I mean? So Dame Lillard is doing it. Like everybody is shooting these half-court shots. So it's really not that amazing no more. You know what I mean? So I felt like Das had to, and again, I'm one of the few people who swear by that second album, Straight Up Suicide, with them not doing the iggity at all and just barring and putting in work, but that almost hurt them because it's like, okay, y'all wanted the iggity so bad, you know what I mean, that y'all didn't really fuck with that. And then plus, I didn't think the beats was that great either. But Vay, what do you think? Das Effects, the iggity style, was that a bite? Was that influence when everybody else was doing the same thing? What do you think about that?
I think it's a bite because when I was making my list earlier, one thing that I was trying to determine was, and it's different for different situations, but the timing, right? Like Das Effects just had a debut album with this style that was new. They blew up with it. And not too long after that, you have a bunch of kids like Criss Cross come out doing it. You know they got it from them because these dudes really only had one album where they did it. And the comparison was kind of like shout out to Ock, I was telling him earlier, is to hear Kendrick say, ain't no other kings in this rap things, they siblings, like 20-something years later is not biting to you. That's homage. That's Big N released that last year or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's what it felt with the iggity. It felt like everybody just jumped on it. You know, like it's not inspired. It sounds uninspired because you're not doing anything else with it beyond saying you like it enough to do it yourself. So I looked at it as biting, especially because it was so unique to Das. It was the reason why we liked them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. JR, what about you?
When I think y'all did a whole episode on it, and I was like, at first I thought it was inspiration for real, but then the way y'all broke it all down, I was like, oh yeah, that was a complete bite. But I was like, that's why I don't think I asked you in the episode, but I was like, why didn't they do that for the second album? Why did they go to the doing like what everybody else was doing and they brought in a new type of style? Like, why?
I think because everybody had bit that style. Like a great example would be Timbaland. Remember when Timbaland first came out with the drums?
Yes. Yeah.
Then I remember seeing Old Girls Promiscuous. And it was like, damn, this is Timbaland. This is a whole new sound. That's when he went into that 80 synth bag. Mm-hmm. You know, so it almost felt like, okay, y'all took that shit, y'all could keep it. Or Dilla. You know, everybody was coming out with that JD Neo Soul sound. It was like, I'm good. I'm gonna go over here and do this donut shit. So I think for people are like, you know, well, if everybody is doing that, it's the same thing with the NBA. If everybody's shooting these shots, I got to add something different to my game. You know what I mean? I've got to do something different because I'm not going to be able to stand out. Now, the only negative to that is if that's what the average person wanted from you and they don't get it, then it's kind of like you switch your whole style. Kind of like how we're like, if Pusha T stopped selling drugs and started talking to us about how to be a better father and be good role models, niggas would be like, yo, what the fuck? Like, Push, where the coke? Yeah. Like, you know, we don't want you to be a dad. We want you to be a drug dealer. Like, so again, it's one of those things where it's just like, and for Push, he stood the test of time. It's like, no, I'm gonna keep doing what I do because it's what I do best. You know what I mean? So I mean, I think that's why they were like, and I think too, it could have been like from the standpoint of you're now having other magazines start to kind of report on hip hop outside of just the source, and it's kind of like, are they just one trick ponies? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, no, I want to show you we can rhyme too. Like, this ain't no gimmick. Like, this was some shit we did, but now y'all calling it a gimmick. This ain't no gimmick. It's again Steph being like, oh, you think I could just shoot these threes? Like, nigga, I could do all kinds of damage out here on the floor. So but Steph still continues to shoot those threes. It's almost like letting somebody talk you out of your game. Like, you know what I mean? But babe, what do you think? Why do you think they went that way on the second album?
I read a article back then because, you know, I was hyped when they had a second album coming out. I actually had the cassette in the garage, and I remember even when they talked about it before I really even heard anything, I was already getting a little disappointed because it was the main thing I liked about them. And when the album came, it was like, it's not, something's not the same. You know, they nice, and this should be good hip hop by any standards, but because it's not the thing that got me into them, it took a little bit away. It grew on me over time, but I just remember the article being about that, like almost like they felt like people copying them played it out so much, like you said, talk you out your own game, that they didn't even want to do it because they felt corny doing it. And as you can see, once they came back with the third album, the minute they used it, it was like, yes, only y'all sound dope saying it.
No diggity. It was like, you know, like they back, and we good, you know. But yeah, but I think that's the thing, JR. So again, and the hard part about hip hop, I mean, these niggas was in college. You know what I mean? These dudes ain't like our age now. We're older and we know, like, nah, don't let nobody talk you out your game. Like, these was young boys. It was like, okay, fuck them. Like, oh, this a gimmick? Okay, I'm gonna show y'all I could bar you up. But then, like you said, babe, nigga, we didn't want you to bar us up. Like, you know, we wanted more iggity, you know. So it's kind of like the gift and the curse. Babe, what's one of your joints, man?
All right. Shit, since we mentioned him, start right at top with Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? For all the things I mentioned, as far as the lines, you know, initially I took it as that, like maybe the first two lines where he was, that's his man. He passed away. He gonna keep his name alive. I like the idea of that because I know we as fans are gonna do that, but I like the idea of that. But then he just started doing too many of them shits. And then I started seeing a pattern like, that was on Best of Biggie. Who the fuck would know that besides, you know, real big heads? Like, nigga trying to get away with shit. And then it just got crazy once he started doing Tupac. And I told you what, and I didn't even catch it at first, Success off of American Gangster. At first, I just thought like, yo, Jay-Z killed that shit. Then somebody was like, you know, them first couple of bars is Eminem. And I'm like, what the fuck? I listen to Eminem. What the fuck song are you talking about?
Right.
Marshall Mathers LP, I'm Back. Because I did my research, kid. About 49 seconds in, you hear.
They got the timestamp. Well, yeah, I'm like, what? I don't know about this. Like, what do you
I got links and all kinds of shit. But I was like, damn, that is Eminem. Same cadence.
Like what part?
How Jay-Z starts his rhyme. What did you think of Success? It sucks with that shit. That was all Eminem.
Right.
It's about maybe 3 or 4 bars, I think.
Okay.
But if you know them beginning bars of that song for Jay-Z, those are Eminem bars. And then
And that's from what song?
From Jay-Z's Success.
No. But from what M song?
It's off the Marshall Mathers LP. It's called I'm Back.
I'm Back. All right.
Yeah, just go right to, as soon as you go to 49 seconds, you be like, God damn, that is it. Like, and I didn't understand that because remember when Jay-Z tried to course correct? You know, I say a big line, I'm only big enough my brother. Big enough my brother. Big enough to do it. Well, what's your excuse for Eminem? He's still here. Right. You know what I'm saying? What's your Snoop still here too? Like what? So I don't know. I thought it was lazy after a while. I thought he liked it, but most people didn't like it. That's why, you know, how many big lines gonna come out your fat lips, nigga? Like that's
right.
Better pay Big Mama for using his lyrics. Like
right.
The old school cats were going in, but probably the most egregious of it all that I would put Jay-Z, a fellow Brooklynite here, is Young Chris.
I was just about to.
Yeah.
This is why me and Vega are brothers. You see it right there. Jay biting Young Chris in Big's lines. Like it's literally both of them together.
The Young Chris shit was egregious because okay, you're gonna quote another rapper, you're gonna say it in the same cadence so people recognize it. But when you started that whispering shit, at first I kind of liked that. I was like, okay, Jay. Then I was like, why do I feel like I've heard this before? Until Young Chris starts rapping on the same song, you're like, oh, that's where it came from. Pretty bad, but yeah, Jay-Z, I'm sorry, you and your wife fight, man.
Yeah, bro, that was on mine too because the Chris, the big lines, and all these ones with question marks is it biting or influence, but the Young Chris shit was really like, yo, man, come on, man. You know what I mean? And I was saying this on another episode, even on Song Cry, when he'd be like, you don't get a nigga back like that. You don't just. And I'll never forget the first time we was listening to the Blueprint in the Cards, he was like, yo, that's Beans. Why you doing Beans style like that? Mm-hmm. And I was like, damn, T even see this shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like this, you know, like, you know, is being able to see that. And, you know, I get it. Somebody would say, if you around these niggas and you rapping and everything, like it's bound to rub, another nigga's style is bound to rub off on you and things like that. But you know, again, and I don't know. Like for me, it's biting. If somebody said it was, you know, paying homage or something or inspiration, I could kind of see it. Because here's the thing that I was thinking about: in the 80s, nobody really was around each other. Again, they stayed in their crews. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if during the first 2 EPMD albums, anybody else was around them, but maybe K Solo. You know what I mean? So now, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Jay. Like, I'm not trying to give him any excuses, but now I'm just wondering, like, if you are in the studio with all these Philly niggas and all these other niggas, can it rub off on you? Like, I don't know, Vic.
I think it can, right? I think if you around a crew, especially when you respect them, it's almost like the ultimate sign of respect. And some dudes are like that, right? Like they can get into a style and then they just kind of write like that. I know one who shall remain nameless because I don't want to do that to him. But whoever he liked, that's who he rapped like. And at first, we was like, God damn, this nigga biting like a motherfucker. But then you thinking like, oh, that is his favorite group. You know, so maybe he's listening a lot. With Jay, I couldn't give him too much of a pass because, shout out to Art also on this because we talked about it, but like Ghostface said, you ain't even give him time to shine off his own shit. Give him time to get hot off his own style before you, who are already hot, decide you want to take the style. Because now, Young Chris, he don't say nothing. Everybody got to speak for him. But it's clear, like, yo, man, we ain't let this dude live. People obviously like the style, so I think I look at it that way. I could rub off on Jay-Z, but I think he should have been more conscious about how it would affect the people he admired. So
right. The hard part is, man, I don't know if I ever I've said this before, but I feel like Jay is like Marlo on The Wire. Like Jay don't give a fuck. Like what you just said. Like, you know, Jay should have thought about how it would affect other people. I don't think Jay gives a fuck. I honestly don't. Like the same way Marlo didn't fuck with Prob Joe. Marlo just used Prob Joe to get the lawyer and to get the connect. Now I'm gonna kill you. You like there is no loyalty. Like, nigga, I just want to be the top. And if I got to step on you, then I'm going to step on you. If I need you, I'm going to act like we good. Then how many times Prop Joe would be like, you know, if you wasn't co-op, it would cost you. But since you co-op, Marlo, we good. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like everybody was on Marlo's dick. And I feel like it's the same with Jay. Everybody's on Jay's dick. So it's kind of just like, Jay, I don't think Jay cared anything about Young Chris. It's like, yo, I like your style. It's mine, nigga. And what the fuck are you gonna do about it? Like on some Marlo, like nigga, I'm taking your Bodie. It's nice you built this corner up. That's fly, nigga. It's mine. Like, nigga, like what are you gonna do? You wait for Snoop and my people to come pay you a call, and like, what the fuck are you gonna do? Like, Young Chris, I like your style. I took it. Now what? You know, so
he should have. He should. Well, I guess I look at it like, because it happened so soon, like he was doing it before the Young Guns album was even out. So it's almost like I tell a joke, everybody start laughing, and then you tell the same joke like literally minutes later, and I'm like, if I don't say something, like, yo, I just say the same shit. But I got an example of somebody who the same thing happened, but unlike Young Chris, they reacted differently. And I think it was for the better for them.
All right, bet. JR, who you got on the R&B side for biting?
Ready for the World, Old Sheila. Complete Prince bite.
Okay.
Period.
Who produced that?
They did.
Oh,
like,
they
Ready
did.
for the World did, yes. But
Was
they
Ready
were
for the
from
World
Minneapolis. So.
I was just about to say, because here's the difference, and here's my question. I know that Minneapolis had a sound. You know what I mean? So do you feel as though that was the Minneapolis sound, or was that the Prince sound, or was Prince the first one out the gate with the Minneapolis sound?
We can say that in a way, but Jam and Lewis don't sound like Prince. They were from Minneapolis. They didn't sound like him. You had what's his name? Andre Curzon that did Jody Watley stuff.
Right.
He didn't sound like Prince. It might have had that sound, but when you listen to Old Sheila off the break, you're like, oh, this is a Prince record. Like, Prince is gonna come on the joint, but Melvin sings on it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, there's certain things that can be influenced.
Yo, I love the fact that you know the name of these niggas in the group. If you offered me a full scholarship for Naomi for UMD to name the niggas in Ready for the World, I'd be like, ready for that nigga right there, that's the, and that nigga over there with the Jerry curl, that's World. Nigga, I have no idea who these niggas are. This nigga's like, and then Melvin came in, and then Melvin, I'm like, who the fuck is Melvin? Like, okay.
I'm thinking about that. I was like, as soon as I say Melvin, when I was talking about Ready for the World, I was like, Kill gonna say, I don't know this nigga. Like,
nigga, I couldn't tell you the name of the Four Tops. I can't name you nobody but New fucking Edition. I may be able to get you the temps if you give me time, but outside of New Edition, nigga, I can't name no. And of course, the Jodeci's and the Drew Hills and all them. But Ready for the World.
Wait, wasn't Big Bub in Ready for the World?
Nope, that was today.
Big Bub was today.
Today. Another slept on group. I fucked with they debut album. Today was my shit. But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a complete bite. And anybody that listens to it, it's like, yeah, y'all bit Prince out the ass for that. So it's like, come on, that ain't influenced nothing. You know what I mean? And what I'm hearing is that even in the beginning, when they were starting off, they were really fighting off this Detroit group that I was doing some research on. I think they were called like the Dream Boys or something like that. And Ready for the World was biting them. So it was like they were kind of moving, kind of how Jay moved. To be honest, you know what I mean? Once Big died, he went and took big shit, right? Then X get hot, then he go over there to Swiss. Like, it's just, Jay did that, and I think Ready for the World did the same thing. So, yeah,
that's a good. And again, I'm just always intrigued, kind of how, like, you know, I said a couple episodes back, like, we ever gonna talk about? I know we you know, Wu-Tang is Wu-Tang and it's 40 Kids. Are we ever gonna talk about them second albums from all the motherfuckers outside of Go? It's like we just don't talk about that. It's kind of like with Mobb Deep. We don't talk about Juvenile Hell. Like, we just have all agreed somewhere in some side room. We just don't talk about that album. And it's almost like the same thing with Jay. Like, do we not just talk about that? Like when you heard Irv, God bless the dead with Irv Gotti too, with that, you know, you hear Irv talking about, yeah, you know, then all of a sudden X is popping. Now Jay's kind of hanging up on the Rough Riders floor in Def Jam. You know what I mean? Now he's hanging up here. He wasn't hanging up here before, you know. But again, this is what I mean by Marlo. You know what I mean? I'm gonna pop up wherever I need to do, and if I need to take your shit to become where I need to go, I'm not in this game to make friends. Marlo wasn't in this game to do no goddamn co-op and have a whole bunch of niggas sit around the table. And you know, I loved it when with Hungry Man and somebody was talking about real estate. It's like, nigga, fuck that shit. Like, let's get to this money. Y'all niggas is friends. Like, I'm not here for that. Like, and I don't feel like Jay was here for any of that shit. It's like, nigga, I want to be here, and if I gotta stab you in the back and stab you in the neck, nigga, I'ma do it. Like, it don't matter.
But he let us know off the break when he said, I'm a hustler that just knows how to rap. Like, he hustling his way through. So he's letting you know what type of dude he is.
But some hustlers have a code. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, he did. Like, yeah, he's Marlo. He's Marlo. Now here's my next hip hop one is when groups would just flat out bite other groups. Like, do y'all remember the Flatliners?
Oh yeah, they lived around the corner from me.
Say word.
One of the dudes in the group, I was cool with his younger brother. Originally, I didn't know he was in a group, but then I learned that he was in a group, and you know who was who, and I was like, oh, they live around the way. But it didn't last long enough. So.
Right. So here's the thing for people watching: the Gravediggers came out. You know, you had Prince Poetic, RZA, Prince Paul. Who else am I missing?
Wait, isn't just three, right?
Yeah, I think Poetic passed away. Prince Paul, RZA, and I thought it was a fourth one.
Oh, from Stetsasonic.
Fruquan,
yeah.
All right. So those four came together, kind of formed a supergroup called the Gravediggers. So and then it started to be pitched as hip hop had horrorcore hip hop. You know what I mean? So then out of nowhere comes this group called the Flatliners. If I'm not mistaken, Russell Simmons' nephew was one of them, and supposedly that's how they got the deal. And they were just a Gravedigger ripoff. And I don't know if y'all remember the Hood Rats. They had the song out called "Your Bootleg, You Get Your Leg Broke," which was basically just an Onyx knockoff. Bald heads. I think they were from Queens, dressing like Onyx. It was blatant bites. You know what I'm saying? And for me, a little of this show, I wonder if how much of this was the label versus the artist. You know, did the Hood Rats come to the label looking like me in Vegas, and they was like, yeah, nah, nigga, shave your head, here goes some Carhartts, and fucking scream in your rhymes, like, you know, and be Onyx, you know. Or were they like, nah, fuck that, Onyx is hot, we want to be like Onyx. So I've always wondering, like, which one was it? But Vay, for stuff like that, the the Flatliners and the Hood Rats, was that biting?
Hell yeah. I think because when you look at the Gravediggers, especially when you look at Onyx, right? Like, obviously this isn't who they were. They came together to become that. Like, Jam Master Jay put them together as the image of the bald heads and the outfits. He made them the Onyx we know. So for it to see it work and then to see something else, because that's radical, right? Like what Onyx was doing, it wasn't throw your guns, all them damn guns, ball heads, and jail suits and shit. So they just saw something that worked. And back then, for sure, labels would have ideas for you. You could walk in anyway. And, like, imagine, like, I know he is who he is, but we got to give him some credit. Another label would have been like, how can we dress this nigga big up? You know, like, we got to do something with him. Whereas the guy in jail tapped into something that was already there with Big. Like, that's what I used to say about with Nas, because I remember one of my homies was like, yo, he wearing pink suits and dressing up. And I was like, I don't know if you know this, but that's the way the niggas wanted to be anyway. They just didn't have the money to buy shit like that. So they were just spending it on like valleys and shit. So they wanted to dress fly and dress up like that. But you know, you coming from the hood, what examples do you have if you don't have your father to show you or whatever? So I always looked at it as like, when I saw the Flatliners, because for one, it wasn't even good. Like they were just talking horror shit. It was like, at least RZA like looked crazy when he's saying that shit.
Right.
You know, y'all niggas just, you know, went from hooping in the hood to now you killing everybody.
Right. Now this R&B joint I got is I got a question after this. So Chico DeBarge, my man Myron, biting D'Angelo's style. You know what I mean? If you look at Chico's first album, Long Time No See, which I absolutely love. It's a 5-mic album to me. I love that album. But to me, when I saw Ig and Me, I was like, oh, this got D'Angelo written all over. The first time I saw Myron's joint, We Can Get Down with Spinderella with them roads, I was like, oh, this got D'Angelo written all over shit. The first time I heard Music's Just Friends, I was like, this got D'Angelo written all over this motherfucking joint right here. So to me, that was biting, and I think at the time I didn't mind, because keeping in mind, D'Angelo, we went from Brown Sugar in '96 and didn't get Voodoo till 2000. So for me, I was like, shit, I'll take anybody who sound like D'Angelo at this point in time. Like I'll take anything. But JR, what did you think? Did you think Chico and Myron were biting D'Angelo, or just influenced by D'Angelo?
Because I mean, once D'Angelo came in, he kind of changed the scope for male R&B anyway.
Right.
So when he came with Brown Sugar in '95, it was like, okay, he's coming with the whole. He's not the suit guy. So now every R&B dude after him is not in suits. They're relating to, you know, to what's current and what's hip hop now. And I think Chico, at the end of the day, he's inspired. He got be inspired by his brothers. You know what I mean? But I think the label might have been like, okay, this is what's the sound. Maybe you should give a little bit of that. So,
because here's the thing, and I love this album to death. Whack ass album cover, love it to death.
Oh, I love the album too.
Like I said, when I heard Ig and Me, I was like, oh, this is all D'Angelo. Like, you know what I mean? For me, you know, he's doing, you know, Trouble Man, you doing Marvin. Like, you know, again, it's kind of like, you know, bite. But Vay, what did you think about Chico and Myron? If anybody ever heard Myron outside
Marvin too, so that's another thing.
Yeah.
Well, I bought Chico's album because when I first heard D'Angelo, I felt like, as much as there's R&B I like, right? I like all the soul singers. I like Luther, I like Jodeci, I like Boyz II Men. I like all of them. But there was something more traditional, whereas this felt like hip hop, but didn't necessarily sound like hip hop. It sounded like it was blending the two. Myron, this sounded like a nigga that went to my church or some shit back then. I don't know who that is.
Y'all have got to listen to this album. It's a good. JR is the only human being alive who will co-sign this album with me. I know the cover is. I know it's whack. I know this will forever be the apartment.
Yeah, it was a bad cover. It was bad.
I know it's a horrible album cover.
Like the back cover should have been
the back cover is better.
Yes.
I don't know why he put it out like this.
Like,
but
come on.
It's a dope album, y'all. Y'all have to get past the cover.
I don't know. Listen to that by myself.
It's like Stove Guy's album. You got to get past the cover. You can't let the cover ruin the album for you. You know what I mean? And the funny thing is yo, I swear on my soul, I never thought anything about this cover until y'all started joking me about it. I never even paid it no attention because I love the We Could Get Down with Spinderella so much. I couldn't wait for this joint to drop. You know what I mean? So it was almost like I ain't paid no attention to this album until Apartment 5B. But yeah, Vic. So was Chico a bite or just influence?
It's hard.
And what about music? And music too.
Yeah, like I feel like.
What'd you say?
You said music. You asking?
Like I I felt like music I felt like it was kind of D'Angelo-ish. It had the Dilla bounce to it. We're gonna get to Dilla and the touch of jazz in a minute, but it sounded very D'Angelo-ish. You know what I mean?
I think so. I mean, it definitely made me think about D'Angelo when I first heard Chico DeBarge, and it had like it gave me music feels like Brown Sugar's music. You know, what I mean? That's what made me feel like it's kind of biting. But because I liked it so much, I was like, well, it does say DeBarge, so I can't say he's biting because you gotta have some influence within the family,
right?
Right. But I think the image and the style of things, like you said, Trouble Man, that whole vibe that D'Angelo gave off with Brown Sugar, I think that's what was what they bit more than anything. But music, when them CDs came in at 88.9, and I was like, and I think music is more influenced by hip hop than anybody because he almost write like a rapper. You know what I'm saying? The way he write his words, he writes like a rapper. So for him, it took me to hear more songs off that album. Like when I heard Love, I was like, okay, all right, he's different. You know?
Right.
But the first single, I was like, God damn, how many more of these neo soul niggas they got in the oven? Like,
bro, I never forget. I went to Little Mike's house and he played it for me. That was the first time I heard it. He was like, I got some of these sounds if you want them. I was like, nah, I don't want that shit, man. That's all Dilla. I was like, I don't want them sounds, man, because, and that will go into the beat thing of how these plugins and people selling these sounds just fucked shit up too, because it became like, do you want these bass tones? These are the Dilla bass tones if you want. And I'm like, well, then my shit gonna sound like Dilla. Like, you know what I mean? I remember telling him like, nah, I don't want that shit. Like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? Now here's the question. If you bite somebody's sound, do we give them a pass because the album is dope? Because I think Chico bit, but it's a 5 mic album. Like, so I'm not giving them a pass, but I am like, nigga, you did bite, but you did that shit very well. Whereas with the Flatliners, it's like you did that shit horrible. You know what I mean? So to me, even if the Flatliners did it great, I'd still be like, you bit their style. You just bit them and was good at their style. Versus the Flatliners just biting their style and just being horrible or whatever like that. So that's my hip hop in that vague. What you got up next?
I was gonna say I think it's different for singers. Like,
okay.
I feel like he is biting D'Angelo, but it doesn't hold the same weight as I would as a rapper. Right. Like if it sounds good, I don't know. D'Angelo did it, but I like this shit too.
Right. In fact, Vague, real quick, let me ask you this. I don't know, have you heard Summer Walker's Clear EPs?
Yeah, honestly, it's the only shit I ever heard because you mentioned it.
Right. Now, when she does Clear, I get a very heavy Erykah Badu vibe from her. Do y'all get that too? And for people watching, she almost has two different styles. You got Summer Walker's ratchet shit, but when she does her Clear shit, like her 2 Clear EPs, is real music, like real live jazz musicians. It's almost like a split personality thing. It's like 2 different artists. But even a joint Pull Up, very Erykah Badu-ish when I hear it. You know what I'm saying? Like to the point that I think somebody I was with thought it was Erykah Badu, and I'm like, nah, that's Summer Walker. But I can hear the influence. Do you get that from Summer, like a Erykah Badu-ish vibe when she does the Clear stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's more influence, right? Because how old was she even?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think, Vague, you bring a great point to this. Is like you said with Kendrick, homage. It's almost like I wrote down homage is a time thing. You know what I mean? Like you said, I don't mind Kendrick saying that because that was 30 years ago. Or like you said with Summer Walker, Summer was what, 3 when Erykah Badu and Tyrone came out? So when you look at the time of it versus somebody who is literally a contemporary, like that's the thing. Summer Walker and Erykah Badu are not contemporaries. We are not, it's almost like somebody saying Anthony Edwards has a game similar to fucking Clyde Drexler. Like these are not contemporaries. Like we are from 2 totally different eras type thing versus it being Anthony Edwards and Kay Cunningham have the same game or something like that. My bad, babe. What were you gonna say?
So the person I got up next is probably the most egregious result of what Jay-Z did before him, and that's Drake. Drake. You can do Drake. You can go down a rabbit hole. You don't even gotta listen to me. People watching. You can go down a rabbit hole of styles, and he's taking flows from. And I got a few names: Soulja Boy, Migos, the dude Dram, who really kind of did the original Hotline Bling, and Drake kind of snatched that, and ironically, Erykah Badu agreed with the dude, like, hey, yeah, that's yours. After she benefited from it, whatever. Rapping Forte, he had to pay that. Now he paid him a little light because I'm like $100K. Do you know how much?
So he had to pay Rapping Forte.
Paid him?
Yeah, paid him $100K. I got all the links. I can send you the links.
Yeah. This for everybody out there watching. This is why I said I will cash app you $25 if you watch up Apartment 5B and you don't learn something, because I done learned. I ain't know about Eminem with Jay-Z. Now you tell me Rapping Forte and Drake. I ain't heard Rapping Forte's name in about 32 years. So this is what I mean, people. You can't tell me you won't learn nothing. Watch fucking with us. So
right, he borrowed some of his flow and his rhymes. Too Short, and I say the Too Short thing because it wasn't an homage thing, because Too Short was hot with Blow the Whistle. At the time, Drake used his same flow. And it's like, well, damn, the old man got a hit later in his career, and here you come stomping on the shit. Like, get out of here. Big Sean, and probably most egregiously, rest in peace, XXX and Teshion. This nigga has stole song ideas. Like, even though this wasn't a song, the whole God's Plan thing came from something he was doing with his fan base. That was more of a charity thing than anything. And the link I got, the Drake flow that I thought was Drake's flow, right? Because I could tell when he rapping like Migos and everybody else.
How you gonna say the Drake flow that I thought was Drake flow wasn't even Drake flow?
I was like, okay, that's when Drake rapped like Migos, and that's 21 Savage, that's Future. But this shit here, this is when Drake is Drake. This song I heard, I was like, nigga, like that's not your flow. So, and it's verbatim. It's the same exact rhythm and cadence. He's just changing the words. And the Soulja Boy kind of had to remind people of that shit because he had a song before it was happening, right?
He did it on the Oatmeal Club.
And Drake used it on I'm On One, I believe. Miss Me, something
Miss
like that.
Me, yeah.
And it was literally like a word for word kind of thing, and it's just like, dog, what is this? You're not a colleague, you a fucking colonizer. Like, dog, you're making, like, Kendrick is pointing out something we should have known the entire time, even with the little two-step joints. So, but again, not to put it all on Jay-Z, because obviously Jay-Z got original lines that are his, that are crazy. But I think he made it okay to just say, oh, no, I'm paying homage to Rapping Forte. I fuck with Rapping Forte. I fuck with Too Short. It's like, goddamn, Too Short just had the hit. Like, let him shine. Like,
let him live. Yeah.
Right. And I love that too, babe, because it's almost like that's almost pinpointing either the time or one of the times where it just became okay. You know what I mean? And it's almost like, because every rule eventually has a breakdown. And I compare it to parenting, like eventually you either just grow past the rules. Because a lot of people would say like, yo, what about Sugar Hill Gang? They ain't write them rhymes. And I was like, you got to understand, hip hop was so young, there weren't rules yet. And it's almost just like when you have a kid, when you come home with a kid, this 2-day-old baby don't have any rules. Nigga, this is your bedtime. This is when you do your homework. Those rules come as the kid grows. So as the culture grew, came rules. And it was like, okay, you can't steal somebody else's rhymes. Or you got to write your own rhymes. Like, it took time for things to kind of grow into place. So, bro, it's almost just like you said, after Jay, it was kind of just like, oh, it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to take other people's styles. Like, and then I think too, the younger generation doesn't really realize it. And then if we say anything, we just the old niggas hating. You know what I'm saying? Because we broke. So it's like it just kind of goes out the window. I remember when Meek and Cassidy was doing some shit in Philly, and they was going back and forth. My man was like, "Yo, who you think will win the battle?" And I'm like, "Dog, if Meek pulls up in a Wraith with 2 bad joints with him, he won already. Like, it ain't even about the bars no more. Like, that's where we're at in hip hop. It's all about appearance. You know, if Cassidy catches the bus and Meek pulls up in a Wraith with 2 bad joints on his hip, Cassidy could rip his ass wide open rhyming, but niggas just gonna be like, but yo, you see the Wraith, you see the joints he with? Like, so it's almost like we stopped caring. I knew, not with biting, but I knew hip hop was bad when it was like when Wayne was kissing Baby on the lips, and niggas was like, oh man, a nigga can't kiss his dad on the lips, and it's like, wow, like
his fucking father.
That's not his dad, and I've never kissed my dad on the lips. So I started to see people make up excuses for their favorite rapper, and that's just something we didn't do in our era. What you got, Veg?
I was going to say, with doing this, like doing a little bit of research, especially on the Drake stuff, because, you know, I just wanted to make sure I was right about what I was saying. I don't know everybody's age in the comment section, but I would assume it's people who are younger than us for the most part. And for anybody who thinking, oh, well, everybody hates Drake now, but they used to love him. You look at them comment sections, they like, he been biting all his life, and them dates are like 2011 and all kinds of shit. It's just that now it ages back, because now Kendrick, it looks like Kendrick exposed you, and it's so much evidence of what you were doing, where it's tough to say, you know, obviously I think Drake probably got lines and songs that are all his, but it makes it really questionable when, you know, you borrowing from or biting from your counterparts, people who you think nobody would know, like Rapper Forte. Like, it's just a little egregious for me. So,
right. What you got, JR?
I got a question. So, some people didn't try to do this with Drake before, and I'm thinking maybe just because now that Kendrick is kind of on the same level as Drake, now everybody is like, oh, this is why. Because a rapper hasn't done this before. They tried to like expose. I know Meek did, but that didn't go anywhere. But having other people have tried to do this before, or no?
I think so. I think the difference is, because people forget, prior to the battle, most Drake fans did not like For All the Dogs. Like, they didn't like that shit. That's why he came out with the other Scary Hours and added it to it, which is the shit that me and Kill really like, oh yeah, do that Scary Hour shit. But most people didn't like that album, and it's almost like he was declining. So now when he's declining and you already got that fan base kind of being like, he keep making the same shit, like you said, to your point, here comes a guy on his level who feels like he's rising, and he points out all this stuff about you and really about your attitude towards a lot of it. And then it starts to look shaky. You know what I'm saying? Now, where Meek was saying it, like, I remember when Meek came out with his final response to Back to Back, but it was too late. But the shit he was saying about getting on and all that, I was like, damn, if he would have came out with that before Back to Back, you know, we might be having a different conversation. But I think it's now, you know, it's a power on. It's kind of like, you know, your man who's locked up, Mr. Shiny Suit. They like, oh, he in there? Yeah, man, that nigga tried to grab me and pull me in the you know, at LeBron's birthday party. You know,
he like, yo, it was 1991. I was at Howard University. Like, I'm seeing people talk about shit he was doing at Howard. Like, I was in the dorm and he was yelling at some girl and he had hit her. I was like, man, it's 1991. Like, this nigga wasn't even puffy yet. This nigga was only short. What's going on, Ralph?
What's good? What's good?
Oh, man. Hey, the Eagles got another chip, man. That's what's good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. JR, I think another thing to your point, and I love what Vegas said too, it's to me the timing. Everything is the timing, because again, I don't know if Kendrick can do this to Drake. I don't know whenever Drake was like at his height. Like, I don't know if it's the third album. You know what I mean? What was the third album? Started from the bottom. Like, I don't know if Kendrick can. Yeah, I don't know if Kendrick can do this to him then. But like Vegas said, niggas was already not feeling the For the Dawn. You know what I mean? So it's almost like the timing of it too is just like perfect because it was like the foundation is already weak. So because like Vegas said, Meek said the shit, but it was just like, yeah, but Meek, you know, is Drake. You know, right?
It didn't seem like nobody liked this nigga, like at all. Like it just seems like nobody liked Drake at all, and they think he's a like behind the scenes, he's a asshole. Like,
well, yeah, I've heard a lot of shit that like him banging.
Yeah, me too.
Girls
and I'm like, damn,
and
so when Joe Budden was talking about it, he was like, yo, this nigga's an asshole. Like, y'all don't know the shit behind the scenes that he's been doing. But obviously, they're not on the level of Drake. So everybody's gonna pay attention to who's on top. So now that Kendrick is kind of equal to him, it's like, yeah, we're gonna pay attention to this.
And it's funny because JR, and even like from a production standpoint, it's amazing to me now that there's so much stuff to make beats. Because in my day, you had an SP12, an MPC 3000, an ASR 10. Like, you only had 3 to 4 pieces of equipment that S950 that everybody worked with. And for people watching, they may remember when Scratch Magazine was out rolling, tried to come out with a drum machine that looked just like the MPC, like with the 16 pads and everything. And everybody was like, man, get that whack shit out of here. Don't nobody want no fake MPC or whatever like that. But then you fast forward 15 years and now you got the machine that looks just like an MPC that I'm using, that everybody is using. So it's almost just like the timing. Like at a certain point, that would be whack to, you know, come out with something that looks just like the MPC with 16 pads, 4 pads across all 4. But now it's cool. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just the timing. Bro, give me something that an example of something that was biting for you, man.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm gonna need some like help with this one. Was Dane biting Slick Rick?
Oh, what a great question, man.
Ooh.
We
Oh, you just came in hard, huh?
Yeah, he came in cutting. I'll say this. For years I never said anything. Maybe Naomi's in 9th grade. We're painting her room, we're listening to old school hip hop. Dane, is it Nightmares comes on. And she's like, oh, this is kind of dope, Daddy. Is he from London? I'm like, nah, he ain't from London. He from Brooklyn. Well, why is he talking like that? I was like, he was, he's trying to sound like Slick Rick. She was like, well, play me some Slick Rick. I'll play you Slick Rick. She was like, is he from London? I'm like, yeah, he's from London. And she was like, so if he's not from London, he's from Brooklyn, and he's trying to rap like Slick Rick with a fake London accent, isn't that biting? And I was like, you know what? I never thought about it before, but it could be. Now, I've heard a lot of people say it was homage because they were in the Kango crew together or whatever like that. But to me, it was biting because, again, you're not from London, but you're trying to rap like somebody who is from London. You got the Kango on, you know, I think Trey was on the show once and he was like, I don't know, because, you know, Rick never said anything outwardly about it. But I'm like, most people don't, like, especially if you're in the same crew. Like, you know, it's almost like, you know, I never heard, and I could be 100% wrong, I never heard Kobe say while he was playing that he was better than Mike in a public setting, like on an interview or something like that. Now, after he stopped playing, you know, you hear over here to the side, he's on this show, he's doing this, and he's saying this about Mike, or you hear McGrady be like, yeah, before the game, he was like, yo, I'm gonna bust Mike's ass. That's amongst his peers. But Kobe never came out and said, I'm better than Mike, you know, in a public setting, even though he probably felt that way. So I'm like, well, maybe Rick felt that way because, well, I really, 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 really think you would feel some kind of way if I literally did everything you did. You know what I mean? Like, yo, we all apartment 5B, but it's like, damn, I met this boy Kill. He ain't wear fitteds before he met me. Now the nigga wear Eagle fitteds all the time. Nigga ain't have glasses before me. Now he got the chains like you may not want to say it outwardly during the episode, like, yo, this motherfucking kill bite my style, but you may be like, yo, this nigga kill like JR. You want to kill him? What? We're finished before, like. So for me, looking back at it, it was biting to me. Vague, what do you think? You're from Brooklyn, JR. Y'all are from Brooklyn. Was Slick Rick? I mean, was Dana Dane biting Slick Rick?
Okay, so tapping into my research, got links, so I can send them to y'all. Dana Dane was born in Queens.
Okay.
To Brooklyn, and he claims Brooklyn. Probably because he was there for years. So
right,
no harm, no foul. But what I did learn, I thought it was biting originally because I was confusing him with Slick Rick because I was young at that time, and I was kind of like, "That's
me too."
But he said his name so much, I knew he was different. And I think when I stopped thinking about it being bite is when I saw him with Slick Rick, and I'm like, Slick Rick's with him, then maybe he don't think it's biting. But in that interview, he said that the Kango crew, which I guess started around 1980 or something like that, he said, you know, obviously Slick Rick was from the UK and the other two dudes were from Jamaica. And they all kind of had that, you know, that British Jamaican kind of style accent. And originally when they was rhyming, they all wanted to sound American because they didn't think nobody would like them because they would sound so different from everybody else. But Dana Dane was like, I think it's hot and I'm the odd man out, so I should just rhyme like y'all. So that's why he started rhyming like that. And I was like, oh, so on the surface it looks like biting because there's the Kango, the coat, and all of that. But if you were part of a crew, especially in the 80s, y'all look the same. Like y'all wore the same shirt with you just had the different names on the back with the same outfits. So I was like, okay, I guess I never looked at it like that. And maybe that's why people older than me kind of didn't say shit about Dana Dane really that much. Because my brother,
I didn't hear negative stuff about him. I didn't hear anything negative about him. But I know as I know as a kid it confused me. And I was like, is he like, at the time, I didn't think about it as biting. I just was like, "Why they like the same?" Like I was confusing, like Vague said, I was confusing him. But he did say his name so much that I knew it was him. Like Cinderfella, Dana Dane, all that. Like, so, and I was just like, they're so similar, and he has the accent. They dress the same, everything. So as I got older, I just wondered, like, is it biting? I don't know. That's why I asked. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hill, you said it earlier.
I got another similar. I got another one.
Probably a situation where they aged into it, right? Like, it was cool. Oh, y'all part of the same crew, blah blah blah. But then when biting became a thing, it was like, man, get this fake ass Slick Rick nigga out of here.
Right. And what I was saying earlier is like in hip hop, I was explaining to my young boy, like, all right, well, boom, why y'all got no problem with the niggas writing the rhymes for, you know, Sugar Hill Gang? And I was like, well, hip hop was just being born at that time, and there really weren't rules in place, you know. And I kind of put it like having a kid, you know, when you came home with your daughter, you ain't have no rules. Now, as your daughter grows older, you start to get rules. It's like, okay, you gotta be off your phone. So as hip hop grew, we had to implement rules. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. So at that time, like Vague said, in the early 80s, everybody was writing everybody's rhymes. If anybody saw the Get Down on Netflix, Books was the only nigga who wrote, but he wrote for his whole crew. Because it's like, if all four of us are in a group, but only Vegas rhymes, Vegas is gonna be like, well, you other three, my best friends can't be in the group because y'all don't rhyme. It's like, fuck it, I'll write the rhymes for you. You know, so there was a time when that was allowed in hip hop. Now, of course, that didn't make it to the 90s because there's no way the whole Wu-Tang could not rhyme and only Meth write the rhymes for everybody. Like, that wasn't going to float in the 90s because we had grown to a place where it was like, nah, if you're going to be in a group, you got to write. You know what I mean? But that's, you know, kind of that way. And Vague, I appreciate that because I had no idea about the cat. I always wondered who was the other niggas in the crew because nobody else ever popped. So who were these other niggas? For a while, I was like, yo, these niggas lying. It wasn't no crew, like, you know, but that makes perfect sense. So if he is the odd man out.
I'll send you the link.
But, I mean,
had a picture and everything, like an old, like black and white, and they all had the outfits on and were dumb young, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, so that makes sense. If they're all in the crew and Slick, I mean, Dane is the odd man out, then it is kind of like, all right, cool, I'll just rap like y'all. But we also see that shit didn't last long. You know, Dane had one album out. By that second album, it was a rap. You know what I mean? So this is what I mean about hip hop now getting rules and it kind of becoming. Once you got to the 90s, a lot of that 80s shit stopped flying. Like a lot of niggas got left behind. King's Son, Redhead Kingpin, fucking Twin Hype. Like there was a lot of boys who could not get past that mark because a lot of rules got marked down in the lines. Once 1990 hit, a lot of them 1980 groups, you know, I mean, I love them to death. Chubb Rock, like Chubb kind of disappeared for a minute until Crooklyn Dodgers, you know what I mean? So it kind of, happened like that. JR, what you got up next, bro?
Oh, it's on me?
Yeah.
Which one am I going? I'm going to go with, and Brian McKnight, you a thief more than biting. But I'm going to say Outside the Door from Michelle and Brian McKnight. He robbed her, period. Like that. Like, I remember hearing that. And at first, I'm singing along because I'm like, yo, I was like, wait a minute. I heard this before. And then I was like, I heard this melody. It's the same thing. And I went back and I listened to Plantation Lullabies. And I said, he robbed that from, and I remember MTV back then actually did something about it. And he said, oh, I wrote this and on my I Remember You album back in 95. I'm like, that still don't mean nothing because that album came out in 93. So you gonna tell me you didn't hear it? And then she didn't get no credit for it. Like, you didn't even credit her. Like, no songwriting, no nothing. Like, he just straight took it. And it ended up being a smash for him, and she didn't get nothing.
Now, let me ask you a question. For me, I always thought that was the producer doing the stealing because it's literally the same beat or the same melody. So, do we know the producers of that album? Or like, oh, he produced it?
Yes, and she produced her.
Okay, I didn't know Brian produced that. So, all right.
He did straight bite. Straight bite.
Yeah, I remember thinking like, damn, the producer jacked him. Oh, here's the thing, JR. What about this one? Princess, I Hate You marries The Love I Never Had. Love I Never Had is produced by Jam and Lewis. I Hate You is produced by Prince. It's the exact same beat.
I thought that one gonna come up, but yeah, it's a bite. it is.
But here's the thing:
hard for me to say that, but it is.
But who had it first? Prince was first.
Prince came out. His I Hate You came out in 96, and Love I Never Had came out in 99. So damn, dude.
Because I was like, God damn, man! Like I thought it was. I thought like, are y'all beefing? Because to me, that's not like Jam and Lewis's style to just bite somebody's shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, y'all. I'm like, are y'all beefing? And it's like y'all sending a subliminal shot, like nigga.
I mean, Prince threw a couple of shots at them to begin with, because he even said he was on stage one time and he played "What Have You Done For Me Lately," and he said, "Don't this sound familiar to y'all?" And I was like, wait, whoa, you did this before? Like, I'm like, every Prince song I'm trying to think, I'm like, I don't hear that. And it's a video out there. He was like, it sounds familiar, don't it? I'm like, oh, damn, nah. I was like, I know my two boys, they do that. Like, nah. But, I don't know. So it's just like, but when I Hate You, I was like, yeah, it sounds like a fight. I was like, all
right, no doubt. Next up, I got Dilla and Timbaland, because when Dilla came out with them bass tones and everything, everybody was biting that shit across every genre, from R&B to hip hop to gospel. You know what I mean? I remember we got the snippet, the CD like sampler for Jill Scott's debut album, and I'm playing it. I'm like, yo, this is dope. Dilla getting that R&B money. This is so. My man is getting the R&B paper. To only buy the album and see A Touch of Jazz produce that whole shit. Jeff and A Touch of Jazz, them niggas need to be paying 10% of everything that they get to fucking Dilla's kids for the rest of eternity. Jeff need to put them kids through college, whatever they want to do with their life, because they bit the whole style. And Quest even talks about that because he said they were so busy doing Soul Query and shit, because I think Jill wanted them to work on it, but they were busy. And it's like, damn, you kind of just bit Dilla's whole style. Like, you wanted Dilla to work on it, but he couldn't work on it, and you just got your producers to just basically bite that nigga whole style, which is crazy. And then you go into Timbaland, same thing with Timbaland. Everybody was doing them Timbaland drums, you know, across genres. I remember hearing gospel artists doing the Timbaland drums. You know what I mean? Vague, what do you think, straight biting, or was that influence?
I think it's biting, man. I think, you know, they wanted a sound. They tapped the guy who had the sound, right? Because they figured he was the one to do it. He couldn't do it. They just made a generic version of it. You know, it sounds good, but it's literally his sound. And it's not influence. Like, to me, influence is you either gonna take the sound or the flow or whatever and expound upon it. You know what I'm saying? Then you're influenced by it. Like, kind of like Eminem, because there's a lot of different people I hear in Eminem, like Pharoah Monch and Dude Tech Nine, and at one point AZ, and he even said Tretch. He's just like, all these people kind of influenced my wordplay, and I just found a way to kind of put them all together. So I think if you're doing something like that, where you like, it's Dilla, but it's something more. No, it sounds like fucking Dilla made it. So to me, it's just biting at that point.
Right. And I was going to say too, like you said, if you did something different, like if you had some hard ass drums and maybe with Dilla's bass tones, but you literally, niggas was doing the hand claps, like you was doing the I remember Dilla said something about Reflection Eternals, what's that joint we used to have named quietly? The Blast.
The Blast, yeah.
Dilla said something about that. Like, yeah, it sounds kind of, you know what I mean? Like, the hand claps, like, niggas wasn't even using hard snares no more. It was like, now we using hand claps? Like, this what we doing? You know what I mean? Rel, what do you think? The Dilla and Timbaland, you feel that's biting, or is that influence?
It was biting. Because, like, when you come out with something that's so, like, distinct and that's nobody's doing it, and then people was legit just, like, taking it and not even adding their own flair to it. To where you can't even recognize if it's not that person. You know what I'm saying? They're not even, you know what I mean? So they're not even trying to, like, they just, that sound is hot and it was popping and I'm going to copy it. And that's the definition of biting. You know what I'm saying? So, and
I want to give an example of somebody who I think, to me, can be Dilla-esque, but he has it, but it's not Dilla, it's Knots. Knots' bass tones can remind me of Dilla, but his drums and the way he does everything else is his own shit. So, like you said, it's almost like a little inspiration, but then I'm doing my own shit over here. And bro, you know what it made me think of? It made me think of cheesesteaks in South Philly. You know what I mean? Because now everybody's biting that shit. I remember somebody sent me a picture because the boy Bradley Cooper had a pop-up spot in New York. And niggas was like, yo, Kill, what you think of this cheesesteak? I said, niggas, that's a straight bite. That's fucking South Philly. That's fucking a seated roll. That's ribeye. That's Cooper Sharp. Come to find out, it was an Angelo's joint. Like, and Bradley Cooper had partnered with Angelo's to do a pop-up shop in New York. You know what I mean? Okay. I want niggas to know that's how nice I am with my cheesesteak game. That a motherfucker showed me a picture and I was like, that's fucking the Angelo's cheesesteak. And it actually was an Angelo's fucking cheesesteak. This is why you should watch me and Rel show Philadelphia Steak Life. Shameless plug, because that's how fucking nice I am. That you showed me a picture and I was like, get that New York bullshit out of here. That's a Philly, that's an Angelo's steak right there. So, but like you said, but this is happening all throughout Philly because now spots in the Northeast is doing that South Philly style. You know what I mean? And you know, Rel, that shit was in South Philly. That was a South Philly style cheesesteak. You know what I mean? Yeah. And now it's a spot I go to in Stella's up in the Northeast, and that shit is my number 2 right now.
I ain't been to Stella's.
Oh, you gotta go. Shit is crazy. Shit is crazy. But just to say that, so we got that, and then my R&B one. JR, tell me this: October London, biting or influenced? And the reason why I say this, I was just, my kids had an interview with this engineer, this boy from DC, Ignatius, and we were talking about the Marvin joint, Gotta Give It Up. I have the Pro Tools session, so I was showing him how I teach my kids how to mix. He was like, "Yeah, man, that whole Robin Thicke, Pharrell shit, that was crazy." You know, I think Snoop must have thrown Marvin's family some money under the table for the boy October, because yo, you seen the way Snoop and them was, Marvin's family was going after Pharrell and them. I would be shocked that they didn't go after October like that. But what do you think? Is that a fight? Is that influence? Do you think the Gaye family?
It's so crazy with October, because before this, October wasn't that. So that's why I know that was completely pushed on him. So to me, it's like he had that old school sound, but it wasn't. It was like a lot of the ad libs that he was doing, and that's why he gets a little bit of a little bit, because he called it the rebirth of Marvin, right? So he throws that in. He
kind of brought that shit on himself.
That part, and that's why I'm mad at, because I'm like, you made it even worse, because now this new album that he did was dope, but a lot of the ad libs, everybody is gonna go back and say, "Oh, it sounds like Marvin." So now you don't put yourself in the box.
But here's the thing: I'm looking at on my iTunes. The first time I heard October was Colorblind. That was 2016, so that's 10 years ago. And when I heard that, I was like, "He sounds like Marvin."
You think so?
I thought he sounded like Marvin off rip, and this is why I liked him. But I did think this is very Marvin Gaye-ish. He sounds like Marvin. You know what I mean? And I didn't think about it until the boy was like, if Marvin's family was going after Pharrell and Robin Thicke, why wouldn't they go after October? You know what I mean?
There's a difference between the Marvin and with Pharrell and them, because the problem is at least October is like, okay, this is a rebirth for Marvin. Pharrell and Robin Thicke was like, no, this ain't Marvin at all. It's like, come on, like, now y'all bullshitting, because as soon as you hear Blurred Lines, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's Marvin Got to Give It Up. That right. And so they had to comfort him. At least the boy is really saying, yo, this is a rebirth, even though it is biting, because it is what it is. The ad-libs.
Well, I don't know. But that's why I'm asking, because if you sing like Marvin and you sound like him, there's nothing you could do about that.
But see, for me, I've been a fan of October before this, and for me, I didn't get Marvin like that.
Okay.
I was like, okay, cool. He gives you that old school, because some of the songs I was getting Curtis off of. Some of it I was getting more other people. But when he came out with this, it was like, I was like, oh no. So this is even before I even knew the title of the album, and I was like, you called it the rebirth of Marvin? You done pigeonhole yourself. It's a rap. Because now nobody's gonna take you out of that now, and you listen to a lot of that stuff. What was it? Back to My Place or whatever. That is Distant Lover on crack. Like, that's just what it is. It was like, damn, y'all, like, and you doing the same ad-libs and all that, like, that's biting. So now you do this album that you're like, no, this is mine, and it's all that, and everybody's like, no, you still sound like Marvin. You kind of did it to yourself. So it kind of pissed me off as a fan, to be honest, because I'm like, you bit and you thought it was gonna put you out there, but it made you even worse. So now people ain't gonna even look at you as an artist; they're gonna look at you as copying Marvin. So he bit him. I think they thought it was gonna be like, oh, he's giving us Marvin, let's check him out. And everybody's like, no, he's just biting him. So
it's so funny, because I go through the same thing I do with Action Bronson with him. Every time I used to try to listen to an Action Bronson album, by like song 3, I'm like, yeah, nigga, I'm gonna put on Supreme Clientele. And it's like almost the same thing with October Love. It's like I'm on track 4. It's like, let me just put on I Want You. Like, it's like, usually I'm only gonna get a cheesesteak in Maryland because I can't get a Philly cheesesteak. But if I literally could get a Philly cheesesteak, then I would never eat a cheesesteak from out here. So it's like, let me deal with it because I can't get to the real Marvin. But nigga, I got I Want You right here. So let me just put in that joint. Ralph, what do you think? Is October London, is that biting or is that just influence?
I agree with with JR. Once he named it that, he kind of put he put the bullseye on himself. You know what I'm saying? Even if you ain't feel like that, like by naming it that, you kind of just put yourself in that box. So now you just made it a lot more obvious. You know what I'm saying? I think like you were saying, like if you sing like a person, what you supposed to do? I think it's a little more than that. It's like when you can kind of hear other songs in your songs, like you can hear Marvin's songs in your song, then it's like, all right, you making a concerted effort to copy. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different time now because like that shit don't fly. That shit didn't fly at all. Like it's way more. You can. Like it's more acceptable to people now, but back in the day, you couldn't do that shit, man. Like being original was the biggest thing. Now that's not the case, so I call it bite. You know what I'm saying? Even though I like the light bull, you know what I mean? I just gotta be honest.
And what you think, Vag?
Yeah, I think it's biting. I recently just saw the Luther Vandross documentary. And you want to talk about like going to church in the living room while every singing. I know every song. I've seen some of the performances, but I'm like, how is that? That's pure talent and originality.
Yep.
And it's effortless. He's walking around like he's walking around his living room, looking for his remote while he's on the TV, but he's singing his ass off. And he's hitting so many levels with it. So when I first heard about, because I think I heard about October London, I heard about him before that, but as far as the Marvin Gaye stuff from y'all, and I was so hesitant because I Want You is my favorite album. I don't want to hear no rendition of it. I want the dude who was laying on his couch at rehearsals singing that shit like it was no problem. Right? The originator. He just on with just. Like, come on, dog. Like, so I didn't see it as homage. I was just like, okay, he's a very good singer. He can do Marvin Gaye to a T. He sounds like Marvin Gaye. But to JR's point, when the next album came out, I would have preferred you kind of sound like Marvin, but you got your own sound. You can't help your voice, but you got your own sound. And every time he would start singing the ad-libs and doing it, I was like, man, turn this shit off. I got Marvin Gaye albums, okay? I got that remember JR, that disc that got like every Marvin Gaye song ever
yes.
created known the man. I got that. I don't know who's doing it like that. Maybe that's for the kids, maybe that's the lane into Marvin for some of them.
Like you brought up Luther, right? And you brought up the documentary, right? Now we know Luther covered everybody. But when you think about his covers, you don't think about the artists that did it.
Because he made them his own.
You know what I'm saying? He done did Stevie, he done did, Brenda Russell, he done did Smokey, he done did everybody. But when he does it, you don't think about the other artists. So he ain't biting. He did it his own way. It still sounds a little familiar. You be like, oh, I know these words, but it's a Luther record. When you think about Creepin', I don't think about Stevie. No. Only for One Night, I don't think about Brenda Russell. I think about him. And I wanted that for October, but Snoop didn't do it like that. It's like, all right, yo, if you was gonna do that, just let him cover all of Marvin's records and let him do it his way and do it as an EP and then cool. But you let this do.
But you know what? Here's the thing, and just throw this out there because we were talking earlier about Daz. You gamble with the fact that You come out with this big album, Ode to Marvin or whatever, and then that's what people want from you. You know what I mean? Then you come with some complete. JR, how did we meet? We met through the dude Leon Bridges, right?
Leon Bridges.
Very soulful, old school. Then he tried to do some new school shit, and people stopped fucking with him, right?
Not really.
Oh, people still fuck with him?
Oh yeah. He he's dope. Like now, he's more on the crossover side than more than us.
Oh, okay.
Like,
See, I haven't heard.
He did like a whole album with Terrence Martin that's dope as hell. Like,
okay, see, I haven't heard his name anymore, and I thought it was because he went away from that. You come out sounding this old soul person, and then you kind of get typecasted as that. You know, it's almost like Diggable Planets. They came out on that jazz shit, and they weren't able to try to move to another place. You know, when you saw Tribe come out jazzy, but they were able to move, and Gangstar was sampling jazz, but they were able to move. With some people just get stuck in that place and they can't move. It was almost like the UMCs. Y'all remember the UMC's second album? Like it was like Unleashed or something, and it was like, wait a second, we're the cool guys with One to Grow On and fucking Blue Cheese. Like, nigga, y'all was dancing, and now it's like Shaolin Wildin'. Like, nigga, what happened? And it's like, that's not what we want from you. That's not what we liked about you. So it's almost like you're rolling the dice. Because again, Das did what we're saying October should have done. Like, well, not in the instance of people biting you, but you came out with a style that people liked, and now you're doing something else the people didn't like it. So Snoop may just be like, yo, you know what? We gonna play it. We gonna take it easy. Like, we ain't gonna try to upset the people, because then we do a regular album, niggas be like, I like the Marvin shit. You know, I remember when Voodoo came out, niggas was like, I knew a lot of niggas who was like, where's Brown Sugar? Like, this ain't Brown Sugar. You know what I mean? Because it's like, that's what we want from you. You know, and here's the thing, y'all. If you take Untitled off of Voodoo, I don't know if we talk about it the way that we do.
We said the same thing on the episode. We was talking about that.
I don't know if you take away, because what really got that thing popping was that video for all the women. You take off Untitled, because Left and Right ain't do shit. There's people who don't even know there's a fucking video for Left and Right.
Nope, that did nothing.
So if you take Untitled off of that, because Untitled didn't really sound like the rest of Voodoo.
Right.
No, it didn't. Yep.
Untitled and Devil's Pie, you could tell like that was not the regular sessions of Voodoo, because Voodoo for the most part sounds like they just hit play and record and they just jammed out for 90 minutes, and then you kind of get Devil's Pie and you get Untitled. But yeah, you take off Untitled, nigga, we made D'Angelo could have been a one-hit wonder on the low.
A lot of them joints, because Erica if you didn't do the remix to Bag Lady, it wouldn't have hit. Because Didn't You Know didn't hit like that, and that's a Dilla record. That didn't hit. And as soon as she did the remix to Bad Lady, now we looking at Mama's Gun as the classic that it is. And just like Untitled, if that wouldn't have been on, I don't know. I don't know what. And again,
people like us may have still liked Voodoo, but as far as it winning Grammys and all of that shit, no. You know what I mean? So it's the hard part. You kind of take that gamble. You know, when you're an artist, it's kind of like you may fuck around and be like, you upset your fan base because you're not coming out with the same shit every time. And we always say, man, we want somebody to grow, but do we really? We usually don't want nobody to grow. Like when my beat was on Hell on Earth, we wanted them niggas to be in Queensbridge, shooting guns, Godfather Part 3. We did not want them niggas being on some old Tribe Called Quest, like, yo, we just chilling, I just blew locks, I got twists. And no, we wanted that. We wanted murder music. You know, so niggas always be like, man, these niggas keep doing the same shit. Then when we try and do something different, niggas be like, I don't fuck with them no more. So you damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know what I mean? Vague, what's another joint you got, bro?
All right, I teased this one a little earlier. Jim Jones, Max B, and Stack Bundle. I feel like prior to them even being like a part of his crew, I wasn't really a Jim Jones fan. I thought he was whack. Like, you know, just straight up. I was like, he can't rhyme. But what the swag that Max B or the Wave that Max B brought to that mode, and then Stack Bundles and even Chinks in some ways, you know, off to the side. It felt like it was a different Harlem coming up that was younger, that had a different vibe. And when you look at Jim Jones, you know, rest in peace, Stack Bundles, and, you know, situation with Max B, when they were out of the situation, Jim Jones carried that on from the look to the style to the cadence, everything. But Max B called that shit out. Like, oh, like, you know, again, shout out to Ock, you know, you can't be the wave because I'm the wave. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the reason why.
So hold up. So Jim Jones' whole style, because he's supposed to be this fashion guru and fashion pioneer. You saying all that shit was because, well, I know for people watching, again, I don't know everything. So we can stop right there. So I don't know about Max being the wave. I know Rel was telling me, because niggas be like, nigga, well, how the fuck you a hip hop connoisseur and you don't know about, nigga, fuck, I'm not Jesus. I don't know everything, y'all. Like, who does? If somebody's telling you they know everything about hip hop, please unfollow them. Like, just stop. Like, so this whole thing that Jim Jones is like, this is my swag and I dress like this, you saying that was somebody else's shit?
I think so. I think he was influenced by it. It's similar to like Gilly's influence on Wayne, right? Like, obviously Lil Wayne cared about bars, right? You could tell he cares about bars. But, you know, you be around somebody who's just like, that's what we do. It rubs off on you. And Max B and them was like, there was Dipset, and then there was like a whole new wave coming up that felt like Dipset, but it was different. It was younger, and it had a whole different momentum. And,
now, was Max B and them cool with Jim Jones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he initially.
I mean, Ballin', that's Max.
That's Max.
His biggest single. That's Max. Max wrote that for us. That was
wow.
And Max. When Jim Jones first came out, he was horrible. Like he couldn't rap on beat. He was terrible. Nobody wanted to hear him. That influence helped him as an MC, and it influenced him. The way he carried himself, the melodies, all of that. That was Max and Stack Bundles. I'm trying. Max was really influential to a few people.
That's crazy. Now Max is locked up. Stack and Chinks are both dead, right?
Both dead. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
And Max supposed to be coming home soon, also.
So Max and Jim got beef then, right? Because Jim bit his whole style.
I think they squashed it.
And they might have squashed it, but when he was out, it was Max and French, and they were beefing with Jim Jones, and they had real like real beef, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Because I always wondered how Jim Jones went from. We did a show, and we were just talking about MCs that used to be whack, or not whack, but like we was like, what the fuck? Fife, we named Fife, we named Malik B, because it would be like, yo, like, how did y'all get so much better? Like Fat Joe, like you went from Flo Joe to fucking shit is real, and it's like, damn, like how do these things get better? And Jim Jones's name came up because El Capo, I love that album. Like, love that album. And it was just like, yo, how did Jim get so doper? And I think, bro, you probably was on that app and brought up the whole Max beat, because that's the first time I heard about Max and Jim was through you. You know what I mean? So you tell me, is that biting? Was that biting, or was that influence?
I think it's biting because you was whack. Jay-Z wasn't whack. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Jay wasn't whack, but
and I think it's biting. What makes it biting for me, what Vegas said, and also that you didn't acknowledge it. Like you try to not give them no credit for you know what I'm saying? Like that's one of the issues with it. You know what I'm saying? When it's clear and then you trying to act like, no. Everybody that was following it can see it. You know what I'm saying? So that would make it biting to me. Like when you're not even trying to acknowledge that you was influenced by this particular artist.
Damn,
Yeah, like when you look
crazy.
at Max B, right? Like just old images and videos. I mean, what rapper was just like hot combed out with his hair with
Yeah.
sunglasses on?
Just look at him, then look at him.
Right.
Just look at him. Look
Right.
at him and then look at him. That's all.
Right.
That's the point. Just look at him. You look up
And
some
Max
pictures
is
of Max B.
And he was from Harlem too.
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. All right. Ralph, what you got? Oh, my bad.
One other point. When I was thinking of some of this stuff, I also was thinking about it from a fan perspective, like you, because I'm like you. Like, I thought Jim Jones was whack. I wasn't checking for any of his early stuff, and I started to until I heard Ballin', and I was like, "Yo, I like that shit." And then that's when the younger cats was like, "Yo, Max B, you need to listen to Max B and the Wave." And at first, I'm like, "Ooh, what the fuck, nigga? Jim Jones." Like, I know him, Jim Jones. So I was more impressed with Jimmy getting better than even hearing anybody saying he was influenced by, until, like Rel said, as soon as I saw Max B, I was like, "Oh, wait, that's not Jim Jones? Like, this nigga looks like him." But you hear it. You hear Max B music, then you be like, yeah, that whole wave of shit, whoever else came, it was because Max B was a heavy influence. So.
Man, that's crazy. That's crazy. All right, Ro, what you got up next, bro?
All right, I got. I'm probably need JR help with this one. I call it like the Mary J effect. Where, like, you know, she came out with the hip hop, and then all these chicks just start coming out that were just similar, like singing over hip hop beats and all that. And I just felt like they saw that, and then now everybody trying to do that. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them didn't last. A lot of them were kind of had a couple hits, but the longevity wasn't there. And I feel like when you copy somebody, usually the cream rise to the top, and they kind of fade away. So, am I correct on that, JR, or am I tripping?
That was one of my first ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've talked about the Monifa thing. Like, for her.
Monique was one that came to my mind. Yeah.
So Mary kind of started something, and then the labels was like, "Oh, we want that." So you started getting the Mona Lisas and the
Mona Lisa.
And
I like Mona Lisa.
I like her too. Like, I
Don't
do.
forget
But
Miss.
it was
You can't forget Miss Jones. Miss Jones.
Miss Jones back to birth, but
I mean, I know technically,
yeah,
you know, that
but once
technically,
she came out, it was like
right.
Miss,
And for people watching, Miss Jones was always on the Ron G mixtapes back in the day.
She was.
You know what I mean? So Miss Jones was technically first, in which I've always said Puffy, what Puff was doing was what Ron G was doing. All Puff did was take what was going on in the streets and bring it to the industry. You know what I'm saying? So
Bad Boy was all blend tapes.
right, exactly.
That nigga was a thief.
Yep. Yeah. So that's it. That was definitely biting. And then it's hard too, because we were talking about before you got on, we was talking about the flatliners and the hood rats.
Oh, that was on mine.
Yeah,
that was
we talked about them, and it's like, yo, how much of this was us biting or the label? Like, me and Vegas could have went to the label dressed like this, and they would be like, yeah, nigga, nah, shave your heads, put on some Carhartts, and act like I'm. So around this time, it's Bug. You know, Mona Lisa could have been some old traditional singer, like, yo, I'm trying to sing like Regina Belle, and they was like, yeah, nah, like, go get some Timbs, go get some hip hop beats, and do that. You know what I mean? So
rap over this Lost Boys joint with Mr. Cheeks.
Right.
That's what you want.
Right. So it's almost like the industry could have been pushing a lot of people to also do that too. Like, we need to same. And again, people, it's so synonymous, the league, the NBA, and hip hop, because at a while, Ralph, I know you remember Lynn Greer out of Philly. You know what I mean?
Of course.
E&S legend, played for Temple with John Chaney. He's basically Steph Curry before Steph Curry. I think he went like the second round, because at that time they didn't want those short scoring point guards. You know what I mean? So it just wasn't in style yet. You know what I mean? because Lynn Greer was truly Steph Curry before Steph Curry. You know, but again, he was like, maybe he may have been 6'2", and it was just like, yo, you don't pass the rock. Like, you really are a shooting guard. If Lynn Greer was 6'6", that nigga would have been in the league. But you being 6'2", it ain't there. Then same thing with the industry. It's like, hey, right now that shit ain't hot. You know what I mean? And when it gets hot, then we all want. Think of how many Kentucky guards got drafted in the first round, hoping to get the next John Wall. You know what I mean? Because that became the new in style. Like, okay, we need that. And it's the same thing with the industry. Like, oh, we need that. We need the new Mary. That's what people want. That's what we need. You know, and then other niggas is like, yo, I was trying to do that shit before and y'all wasn't. Kane is in the back like, nigga, I had this champagne in the silk shirt. Y'all didn't fuck with me. Like, yo, what happened? Like,
we looking at crazy when he had that shit.
Like, yeah, like you crazy. And there's a lot of NBA players that's like, yo, I can do what Steph do. Like, y'all ain't even, I'm over here playing in fucking Asia somewhere because y'all wasn't, you know, the league wasn't ready for that. The industry didn't want that right there. So, you know, that's the sad part about it. But timing is truly everything, you know. JR, what you got up next, bro?
I'm caught some shit with this one, but I don't care. Mike bit his sister. With
okay.
And I'm gonna say this. He bit her as far as hip hop. He bit her because she worked with Heavy D first, and then he went and got Heavy. And remember, on Bad, Quincy was like, I want to get Run DMC, and he said hip hop was a fad. And then his sister get a big record with Heavy, and then he goes to Teddy. Do you know who Heavy D? Can you get him for me? Come on, dog. Okay. That was a straight. I was worried. I was worried where it was gonna go because Vegas's face was tightening up when you talk about Mike. Oh
yeah. So I was wondering where it was gonna go, but then when I saw him point at you, I said, "Okay, we cool."
You know, people don't want to admit that sometimes, and I always say when Dana came out, she kind of was kicking her brother ass in a minute. That's why he was like, "We gonna work on screen with each other," because it was like she came in, it was like. And he was like, all right, you know what I mean? Because he was he fuck with hip hop like that.
Quincy wanted to get Run DMC on what song?
Yo,
I'm not mad at Mike saying no for that.
No. He did over like 60 songs of Bad. And it was one of the records that he wanted Run DMC on. And he also was thinking about LL too. And Mike told him, nah, I don't want no rappers on mine. This fad, it's a fad. It ain't gonna last that long. And then
so Quincy wanted LL or Run DMC actually on Bad, the song, or
Bad.
The album?
On Bad, the album, yeah, not the song.
Oh, the album, not the song.
Yeah, they did like 60 songs, and he wanted Run DMC, but it's funny because right after then, LL was supposed to be on a record on Dangerous, but it never made it, and then Run DMC ended up getting on the History album. So again, Michael started following rather than leading, but he bit. He was like, all right, my sister got a hit off of it, I'm gonna get a hit. But Jam wasn't doing what All Right did, so it's just what it was.
Now, Vay, do you think that it's biting because you're using the same artist, or is that just influence?
Hell no.
Nah, I think because he specifically went to get Heavy D, is
right.
biting.
Okay. All right.
He didn't try to like, oh, you got Heavy, I got Queen Latifah. Like, nah.
Right.
That Heavy D guy is great. Let me get him.
Yes.
Bro, what you think?
I'm a huge Mike fan, but that's biting.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. The one last thing I got, this drumless hip hop craze. I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I won't do it. I'm not listening to that shit in 2025. I already told niggas. I'm dead ass. My man Jay sent me the other day. He was like, yo, what you think of this Larry June 2 Chainz Alchemist shit? I was like, does it have drums? He was like, no. I was like, then I'm not listening to that shit. I'm not listening to no more shit that does not have fucking drums. This shit has been going on. Rejects 2. I mean, we really want to go back to fucking Rock Mark, this shit has been going on for over 10 years, y'all. Like, stop this shit, man. Like, really, stop this shit. And it's not stopping. Like, I think Ransom and Dave East got an album coming out. Saw the snippet for that. No drums. I'm like, okay, well, not listening to that shit. Like, I'm not fucking doing it. We have to. I feel, you know how motherfuckers feel about Target and DEI and don't spend no money at time? That's how I feel about drumless hip hop. Stop this shit. Stop it. Stop it. Stop the downloads. Stop the streams. Make these motherfuckers put some goddamn drums in their song. That's why I love Rock Marcy for making Bebe's Kids. The song, we basically talking about I birthed all you motherfuckers because all you niggas is biting my shit. And again, it's like Steph Curry. I don't mind Steph taking those shots. When people say Steph ruined the game, no, Steph came in playing his game. That was his game. The problem is the rest of the league bid it. And now the league, that's what makes the league whack now, is because everybody is shooting threes. I'm sure everybody up here saw that clip of that Lakers game where it was just threes, up and down the court, threes, just back and forth. And it's just like, yo, what is anybody gonna call a play? Like, what are coaches getting paid for now? Like, I see motherfuckers down 1 point, 7 seconds left in the game, call a timeout just to have a nigga shoot a step back three. Did we really just call a time? You could have done that shit by yourself. And to me, the same way that the NBA is whack and the ratings are down, that's how I feel about hip hop with this drumless shit. Because it's horrible. And then my other last one was Just Blaze Bite and Bink Sound. When I first heard, I didn't listen to the Dynasty album because I had checked out of Jay. So when I came back to Jay on the Blueprint and I'm hearing Just Sound, I'm like, okay, this is dope. My man was like, oh, you like that? Listen to 1-900 Hustler. I was like, yo, Just Blaze killed that 1-900 Hustler. My man was like, oh, no, Bink did that. And I was like, Bink did that? He's like, oh, yeah. Just be biting everybody's shit. Just came out sounding like Swiss Beats at first. Then he sounded like fucking Bing. Just is just a chameleon and everything like that. So, that was, and to me, that's just a straight up and down bite. You took this nigga's whole style of the rock music and everything like that. So, Babe, what do you think about the drumless hip hop crazes that influence or biting, and same with Justin Bing?
I think the drumless sound, it's uninspired influence to me because it's not real. It's sure, it might be a wave, niggas like it, cool. It's a wave. It's an era in hip hop that will eventually end, right? Because the drums will reign supreme. But I feel like it's uninspired. It's literally, let me grab a sample and boom, there you go, beat. And it's annoying because in a lot of ways I'm like, well shit, let me get some bread. I can fucking find a couple loops and tell nigga, yo, come get this drumless hip hop and do that. The Just Blaze shit is definitely biting. And I always used to wonder why after a certain period, because I think Just Blaze is a victim of the internet, finding out like niggas spreading the word like, yo, he's biting because of this. Because I was like, damn, Just Blaze kind of disappeared. Like, for somebody who has some monumental sounding ass beats and hit records, you would think like his sound is covering everybody. But it was because, it was out there now. Now Bink is like, hey, I'm on my account. Nigga, hell yeah, he bited. And you start to hear it, and Just Blaze reasons aren't enough for me. It's like, oh, you think we stupid, nigga? Like, oh, you think hip-hop rules change because you make money? No, you know what it is. Like, you're biting that dude's sound. And sure, there's a lot of Just Blaze beats I like, right? Like Exhibit C, I fucking love that beat. But when I hear Bink, I'm like, yeah, that otherworldly, that God sound beat making kind of shit, that's his style. Yeah, he just got to take that because that's clearly biting him, in that case. So.
Right. What you think, JR?
I learned that from y'all with the Bink and the Just Blaze a couple of episodes ago, and I was like, oh damn. So yeah, clearly that's clearly biting. So learn that from y'all. So I think it's biting.
What you think, Ralph?
Yeah, you got Bink talks about it a lot. About it a lot, yeah. But it's it's clear. You know what I'm saying? It's clear. Again, it's one of those things like when you do stuff and then you act like you act like you didn't, and you don't get the other person recognition. That's when I really like, yo, you biting. Like that's when I really look at it in like in a negative way. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's
you
funny
admit
because
you was a guy is cool. You know what I'm saying? But when you start fronting, nah, and everybody can hear it, nah. And then the drumless hip hop oversaturation. My fault. It's just it's just too much. Like it was cool at one point, and then it's just like, all right, now everybody's doing it now. Like it's like how can I describe? It's like it's like boneless wings. Like
that's what Mars calls it. Mars calls them boneless beats.
Yeah, that's what it is to me. So
yeah, I feel you. I was gonna say, and it's funny because I have holes in my production game, but I've never asked for help because I never wanted another producer to be like, oh yeah, I got that, Kill got that shit from me. You know what I mean? Like that's how big I am on biting that. It's like I may not be good at that, but I'm either figure this shit out, but I ain't asked nobody for help because then niggas be like, oh, Kill bit my shit from there. So that's the thing. Vague, what you got for your last joint, bro?
My last joint is kind of conflicting because I started to like some of his stuff, but it's Diet Ghost. It's Action Bronson. And I remember when Blue Chips came out, and I think I was producing Strictly Hip Hop or helping to produce. And Cats was telling me like, "Oh, you should do Action Bronson, Blue Chips, and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Oh, this white dude must be nice." Like, I like the album cover. I mean, the mixtape cover and all of that. Then I pressed play, and I was like, "Yeah, this nigga sound like Ghostface like that." Like, nah, I don't want to hear this shit at all. And I remember when I heard a EP, and I could kind of hear the difference between him and Ghost. I started to hear the difference in the voice quality and stuff like that. And when I really liked him was Mr. Wonderful. But that's when I really was like, yeah, he says he's not. And I was going by what Ghost was saying at the time, which is he can't help what his voice sounds like. But if you listen to Mr. Wonderful, the skits, the general idea, the beats, some of the way he talking, even when he not rhyming, it was real Ghost-like. And when he said that shit about Ghost, where he kind of denied it because, you know, Max Kellerman was a Ghostface fan, and I think he set him up on purpose on live TV. Like, I thought it was Ghost. And he said he ain't rapping like this. I was like, nah, dog, because when I heard your shit, you sound just like Shonda at the corner store walking like, nigga, you sound like Ghost. Like, you okay talking that nothing that's like him. So that's why it was so fitting that Ghostface didn't even make a diss record. He came out talking like Ghost. Let me tell you something, son. You know, straight up and down. I'm like, oh, nigga, you can't copy this. Like, this nigga, a classic. You know what I'm saying? So I think if he didn't have the cooking show to kind of help him do some other stuff and have music as a secondary thing, he wouldn't even be able to make music after that because it just became clear. People who didn't know, like my brother, he heard one bar. I was like, it sound like Ghostface. And he don't know Ghostface's whole catalog, but it was just, at first it was like influenced, but like Rel said earlier, how he was denying it and then was even like saying how Ghost ain't rapping like this. It was like, oh, you thought you could change, you thought you could colonize hip hop. No, you can't. You know what I'm saying? So for kids watching, at that Papa Wu picture at Sean Price funeral.
Yes, yeah. The funny thing, Vay, is the point you bring up about him now trying to find other things to do. The cooking show, you know, even that little small acting part he had in, what was that mob movie that was on Netflix? I forgot the name of it. Paint Houses or whatever. He had a little. But I think he had to do that because, and again, this is what showed me how people stopped caring about the rules. Because after what Ghost said, and after Papa Wu stepping to him at Sean P's wake, it's almost like, nigga, you're done. Because it almost came to a point like, well, if you make good music, you know what? Then we don't care if you bite or not. As long as the music is dope. If you make it and it's whack, then we care. You know what I mean? But if you don't, we ain't gonna hold it against you. But I definitely feel you on that. Bro, what you got for your last joint?
I had the thing with the flatliners, and you remember what that was like a thing? What was that like?
Hardcore. Yep,
Hardcore, right? Yeah. I had that. I had a question that I heard some older cats say that I didn't know, and I wanted to get your, was Granddaddy IU biting Kane?
Okay, great question. And Granddaddy IU. The joint, this book is down here somewhere. Damn, let me see. Do I have it down? Yeah. This joint right here, very dope book called Going Off. Story of Juice Crew. We had Ben Merlis actually on Apartment 5B before. They go into the detail in this book about that. And that basically what it was is, when the Juice Crew, this isn't just about the Juice Crew, it's also about Cold Chillin' Records. That's what it's really about. So with Granddaddy IU, Kane was leaving, had gotten off of Cold Chillin', and they were trying to replace him. So it was kind of like, instead of Big Daddy Kane, it was Granddaddy IU. You know what I mean? So like they were trying to do the spinoff. So they were almost trying to replace Kane, again, similar to the NBA, with two different people. They were trying to replace him with the genius, dark skin, kind of high top fade with the twist on some Lover Boy shit. So that's why the Geniuses Come Do Me was kind of like on some old Kane Lover Boy type shit. And then we gonna replace the bars with Granddaddy IU, similar to Big Daddy Kane. So it wasn't necessarily him biting, but it was just the label kind of pitching it like, hey, we got to replace Kane. And again, similar to the NBA, like we got to replace Jordan. One player can't replace him. So we going to get this nigga for defense and get this nigga for offense. And then we going to replace Big Daddy Kane like that, And of course, RIP to Granddaddy IU. It didn't pan out like that because, there's just no replacing Kane. But it's funny. When we really think about the NBA and the industry is real synonymous. Like, like this was the Cold Chillin' roster, nigga. This the Bulls roster. Like, Jordan left. Okay, Pete Myers wasn't the fucking answer. So it was kind of like, we got to replace what we just lost. So. But very dope book to check out. I learned so much from this joint right here. You can get this on Amazon, so definitely cop that if you in the know more about the Juice Crew and Cold Chillin'.
I got one more that some people don't know about, like a lot of younger might know about. So I got two little brothers, and my brother had went away to college, and he come home, and I'm like, yo, what are you listening to now? This was some years ago. I'm like, what do you listen to? And he's like, I listen to these people called Raider Clan. And I was like, well, I was like, Raider Clan? He's like, yeah, they're from Florida. And it's a guy named Space Ghost Perp, and it's Denzel Curry, and he's naming the people. So I'm sitting there with my brother and I'm listening, right? And he says, yeah, they had beef with ASAP, Rocky and them. And he's like, ASAP stole their style. Stole the guy's style. And so I'm listening, and man, it's because when ASAP came out, like, you was like, why they didn't sound like they were from like Harlem. Like he was from Harlem. Like his sound, that if you get a chance to ever listen to anything Raider Clan, it was Denzel Curry kind of became popular. Became popular out of that crew, but it was started by a guy named Space Ghost Perp, and they're all from Florida. And Space Ghost Perp made Raider Clan, and they had that sound that sounds kind of like a East Coast 3-6 type of the way ASAP sound. When ASAP came out with pesos and all that shit, it's the exact same, and they wound up beefing. They wound up having like a real beef, but that sound was created by that guy Space Ghost Perp, who a lot of people don't mess with no more because of other stuff, but ASAP got that from that crew. And I would have never known if I wasn't talking to my little brother and he's like, this is what I listen to, and I'm sitting there going through the rabbit hole of their music back then, and it was interesting, man. So it's always good to learn something.
I have never heard an ASAP Rocky song in my life. I have never heard any of that whole ASAP Ferg, Rocky, the rest of them.
Ferg was a little different, but when I was working in the schools, it was a time when ASAP, and that was the kids were playing like the song Pesos a lot and all that, and I just went down a rabbit hole. And then listening to my little
married to Biani, who about to get knocked, right?
Yeah, he about to go get booked, yeah. But it's always good to learn something. So I'm sitting there with my little brother, and I'm just like, wow, this is interesting. You know what I'm saying? Both the crews wound up having like beef with each other at one point. So,
and you said they're from Florida?
Yeah, they're from like the Miami area. And the guy Space Ghost Perp started it, and then it was like a big collective. They were all from Florida, and they had this sound, man. Like you'll hear it, like they had this sound that was just different, but you can hear the influences. It has like a lot of Houston influence mixed with 3-6, like, you know what I'm saying? The way ASAP he came out, how he sounded, and you can clearly hear that he took their style. You know what I'm saying? So
I gotta check them out. Raider Clan. All right, no doubt. JR, what's your last joint, fam?
Shoot, it was 2, but I'm gonna do this last one. Aaron Hall and Candyman.
Yeah.
Clearly by a bite.
Now, Candyman did Aaron, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. He definitely bit like the whole style. Like even when he was with Public Announcement, you can even then it was like they were nothing but Guy for real. Like that's what nothing but it was. And then once he went solo, he cut the bald head and became Aaron. Like it was just a complete fight, right? And then
can you name anybody in Public Announcement?
Absolutely not.
Melvin, Myron. Some niggas had to be in it.
I was like, if JR could name somebody in Public Announcement, this nigga's the fucking man. Like,
oh nah, you got me on that one. I can't name nobody. Nah, not at all. Because you didn't really even focus on them dudes like at all. So
once Candyman came out, did you feel like Aaron was dead? And if that did happen, then how did Joe creep in?
Because I feel like about to go there too.
I feel like if you put Aaron Joe and Aaron Joe and Candyman all in a lineup, it's like nigga, who rock?
It was definitely the label that pushed for Joe to do that, because Joe was not like that when he first came out. Joe was completely different, and he didn't break through until he started looking like Candyman. Okay. Then he broke through. You know what I mean? But it was just like Aaron was. I mean, Candyman was doing what he was doing when he was with the high top fade. He was acting like Aaron. So then you go to the bald head. That was Aaron again. And once Your Body's Calling came out, it was like the machine got behind him, and Aaron kind of went down after that. It was like he didn't have anything behind him, and it was kind of like that was it.
For people watching, them first 2 Aaron Hall albums are really fucking good, man.
It really is. Like the truth is the truth.
Man, that joint with Faith was crazy. All right, let me say this. I got a couple of joints, and I just want y'all to figure out if this is biting or influence. Drew Hill and Jagged Edge, biting Jodeci. Is that biting or just influence? Vague.
It's tough to say. I think Drew Hill is influenced by Jodeci.
Yes.
I think it's more that than biting. Like Cisco can't help that he has a similar style voice, but I think he probably looked up to KC, in a lot of ways. So I always felt like it was more influenced because Jodeci was well established by that time. They had some of their biggest hits already, so I never looked. And I'm a big Jodeci fan, but as R&B representatives will know, I was right on that show with a Dru Hill album, talking track for track. So I didn't feel like they bit anything. Jagged Edge, I never looked at them as a fighting off of Jodeci. I kind of always thought like they were just R&B niggas, like
I think that was it for me. They were just R&B niggas. Like, so it was just like Jodeci looked like some R&B niggas. They had time when they was black jeans and the black Timbs, and it was like Jagged Edge was just baggy jeans and the butter Timbs. You know what I mean? So
it's kind of like when you go to buy some Trick cereal and then you see Kaboom and you like, well, shit, look like Trick. I'm not getting that shit. Like Crunch and King Vitamin, where you like, oh no, I'm gonna get King Vitamin. The shit melt before it hit the milk.
This nigga said Kaboom. Oh my god!
When you saw that Kaboom, like hell no. Like,
I remember you talk about times like growing up and I'd be with my dad and you be in the aisle and you see Frosted Flakes and you see Corn Flakes and it's like, come on, please. Like, I beg of God to get the Frosted Flakes, and we would get the Corn Flakes and I had to put all this
you gotta put the sugar on there. Yeah.
You just as a kid, you like, I can't wait till I get old and buy my own goddamn Frosted Flakes. Nigga, always gotta get the Corn Flakes. Now I gotta scoop up the sugar at the bottom of the bowl and eat that.
Been there.
Yeah, niggas don't know about that, man. You just got a bowl full of milk and sugar. Eating the sugar after the fucking cornflakes. Those are like those times as a kid, like, oh my fucking God, what the fuck? Or when you get a raise and you be like, I gotta see what my new check look like. Like, you waiting for that shit to hit. Like, okay, what's the raise look like? That was cornflakes for me. JR, what'd you think? Biting or just influence?
Yeah, I think Dru Hill was just influenced by Jodeci for real. And Jagged Edge, when it comes to Jermaine, he did a lot of following, a lot of biting to me. So, hey, if you're gonna throw him in there with the, Jagged Edge as far as biting, then hey, I'm gonna do that because Jermaine did a lot of biting. So, if you're gonna throw him in there, do it. But whatever.
All right, Rob, what you got?
I think I don't know. I guess influence. I mean, they influence a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can call that just straight biting. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you could tell though. Like, came up listening to, listening to KC and it would influence them. You know what I mean? But I don't know if it's necessarily biting.
Yeah. I feel, and I'm on the edge because I kind of feel like JR, how you said earlier, like you're doing Marvin's runs. I felt like that's what Cisco was doing. Like, you could sound like KC, but then I feel like you're doing Jodeci runs too. Like, you know what I mean? So I felt like that could be. So I'm on the edge with that one. The Fugees biting Diggable Planets from the standpoint of two guys and a girl in the group.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, they ain't bite. They was not biting them because nobody wanted to hear that meat be the chocolate. Like, shut the fuck up. The fucking Fugees is better, okay? Like you said earlier, Kill, they couldn't transition because their lyrics was garbage. That's why. Like, you're writing about nothing, nigga. You're writing about oxygen. Okay.
Yo.
Hey, yo. Yo, what you was drinking, yo? What you was drinking, yo?
Just juice. Okay?
This nigga said we be the chocolate. Man, shut the fuck up.
Yo, I'm telling you, back then I couldn't really. Don't get me wrong. I like the joint. cool like that joint, right?
The reverb was slick, yeah.
But sometimes it was the hype around it that was annoying because it was like, yo, and it's like, really, nigga, these niggas rapping about articles and shit. Like, what? Get these niggas out of here. So, even though the Fugees had a whack album, what they did with the score, no way was that influence. That bullshit.
Yeah.
You had to say that one thing.
Every time I hear it, I'll be like, even now, this shit come on, I'm like, ah, damn, dude, I've been running from these bum ass lyrics all my life.
This nigga Vegas strikes it.
Yo. Oh God.
My homegirl hate that shit too, but she love Digga. She be like, "What?" I'm like, "I don't give a fuck about all that hot foam or whatever the fuck the name of that album is."
Yeah, that's a prime example of hip hop speaks to us all different. Because I know people who swear by that blowout cone. They're like, "That's one of the greatest."
I know. I've been seeing that on Twitter.
Time. And I'm like, nigga, I could not name you 2 songs off that album if you fucking paid me at all. All right, Pete Rock's echoing horns and filtered bass lines. Pete was the first person to really start doing the echoing horns that everybody was doing. He was also one of the first people who started using filtered bass lines. The beat miners kind of like blew up the filtered bass lines, and for people watching, that's when you take all the highs out of a sample, so you kind of get a bass line. Listen to Jay-Z's Dead Presidents is a perfect example. Jay is rhyming over the filtered bass line. During the chorus, Ski opens up the bass line for it to be the regular sample. Pete started that, but is the echoing horns and everybody doing filtering bass lines a bite or influence? JR, what you think?
I mean, it could be influence, I guess. Like, if Pete Rock brought it in, I guess people gonna be influenced by everybody, so I guess it's just influence. I'm gonna say influence, I guess.
All right, what you got, Ralph?
I don't know, man. See,
I'm still stuck on Vegas fucking diggable shit. Like,
yeah.
You know why? Because when you go back and you think about those lyrics, you be like, you know what? That was some stupid shit being said on that record.
Yo, I didn't like none of that shit. I was like, yo, this nigga's name is Doodlebug, nigga, and you from Philly?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Man, stop.
Right.
Yeah, I did like when Boy was on Camp Low song though.
Ish was dope. Ish was dope. I love that because Ish to me sounds like Geechee. So it was like, yo, for me to hear it, I'm like, oh shit, like that's dope that they both on each other's joints like that. And that's a great example of how 2 people can sound alike, but they have 2 completely different styles.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Geechee's style is totally different than what Ish was doing. So Ralph, you said you kind of
that's some producer shit. Like I
know for me it's influence just because we were saying earlier with Dilla, like I feel like people made it their own. So I feel like mine is with using filtered bass lines, but Buck 'Em Down don't sound like I Gotta Love. You know what I mean? So I felt for me it was influenced because they still made it their own. It's not like the beat miners making rock sounding beats. You know, it's just like, oh shit. And at that time with beats, we all were kind of following. You know, Marley was the first person to really be able to chop up drums and say, I'm gonna take the kick from Impeach the President and the snare from Synthetic Substitution and replay it and program it myself. We all did that shit. So, you know,
wasn't at that time like a lot of people was just learning, you know what I'm saying? Didn't a large professor teach some of them how to do?
You taught Preem how to use the SP12, and niggas used to go record shopping together and everything like that. So for me, it's influenced because it's not like the beat miners was now making Pete Rock sounding beats. That would be biting to me. If now the beat miners sound like Pete Rock. you know, or if Ski sounded like Pete Rock, whereas like Pete Rock had his own sound. Again, everybody had their own sound. RZA may have used the echoing horn. I don't even know if he ever did, but if he did, it still sounded RZA-esque. You know, it didn't sound like, okay, I'm gonna try to make a Pete Rock sounding beat. So for me, it was influence versus biting. Vague, what you think?
I think it was influence because of some of the same things you said. Like, Pete created a technique that was useful,
Right.
And when you look at the evolution of hip hop, the same goes with rhyme schemes and stuff like that. Not necessarily fighting, but if you find a way to create a new sound or expand upon what you learned or from somebody else, you know, then it's kind of like that's the nature of it. You know, like again, a lot of the sampling, you know, musicians look at it like, yo, create your own sound. I created that out of thin air. Right. So it's just more of that happening as opposed to I'm gonna just make something just like him. So,
and that's a great example too. I mean, I don't know who the first person was to sample, but are we all biting that person? I wouldn't say so. But like you said, it was a new technique, and it was like, okay, cool. You know, I've been watching all these Marcus Miller interviews, and he's just talking about how Larry Graham really was the first to start slapping the bass. You know what I mean? And how everybody wanted to, it was like, yo, what is that? Like, okay. And everybody gives Larry Graham, you know, props for it, but then you found your own way to kind of bring it out. You know what I mean? So definitely that. The last one I got was Big's Ready to Die, really a bite from the Illmatic cover, the baby on the cover. I personally never thought that way because it was a baby in a white room versus a kid's face with the projects as the background. So I never got the whole Ghost and Ray shark biting nigga skit because I was like, it's a baby and a kid and it's a white room and it's the projects. But that's me. So I didn't see it as anything. I just saw it as what it was. Vague, what did you think?
I ain't gonna lie. When I first got it, I thought about Illmatic because there weren't any kids on any covers of any age before it. There wasn't. It wasn't an idea at all. You was either leaned up against your whip like this, or standing on it, or girlies around, or something. Nas was the first time you was like, oh, you know, that's a thing. You know what I'm saying? I never looked at it as biting, but maybe for 2 seconds. But then when Ghost and Ray, he bit off a Nas shit, I was like, damn, so I wasn't the only one who thought about Illmatic when you saw that. But to me, especially because when you press play on both, it's a whole total journey, and the album covers sometimes play into that journey. You're just like, whatever. So yeah, I didn't really think it was biting. It probably was more influence than anything.
The funny thing, I've always wanted to know why they picked that cover, because I personally always thought Ready to Die, that was a whack cover. Like, I just never liked the cover of just the baby sitting in the white room. Like, you know, and for all the work Puffy was doing with marketing and the Big Mac and all the, you know, it's just like, that's the cover y'all came up with? Just a baby just sitting there? But,
well, you know what I thought it was?
What's that?
Like, at first, I thought about Illmatic because it was a kid. But then I was like, oh, that's the bad boy symbol? Because it was kind of a similar setup.
Right. I didn't think about that.
So I thought it was that. I thought they just used the real baby to kind of create the bad boy.
I never thought of, look at that in fucking 30 years. I thought about it. Yeah. Right, what you think? Biting away, or whatever the other word I'm thinking of right now.
I remember as a young boy, I was like, oh, dang, because I really, like Vegas was saying, like, the Illmatic cover, like, I know for me, I was like, damn, that's kind of clever. Like, I ain't never seen nothing like that where you put the, you know, the kid picture, and then so when the big joint came out, I was, and Rand Ghost kind of like gassed it too, so it was like, I was just like, man, did he bite off this nigga? But as I got older, it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same. You know what I'm saying? I will say I agree with you though. I didn't really think the cover was fire. Like, Illmatic cover is fire. You know what I'm saying?
Like, but that cover was fire. Like, and I remember seeing Ready to Die. Like,
yeah, whatever. Yeah. So,
and JR, what you think?
I didn't think so, but like y'all said, the Illmatic cover is like that. I don't even like the Ready to Die cover at all. I like the one that they got on vinyl now. That cover I like better than.
What's that cover?
It's big with he just on there. He got on the Kango hat. He wearing the dang, it's over there. He's wearing the
It's a new
like
cover,
beige suit or something like that. It's on the cover of the new vinyl that he got now on the Ready to Die vinyl.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's from like the same photo shoot from I think the Big Papa single.
Oh,
yes, it is. Yep, that's it. I got that now, so I don't
I would have rather that cover.
Yep, that's the one I have, so I'm good.
Yeah. All right, last thing I have for this was I kind of talked about this last week, and I'm thinking one of the reasons that a lot of bite may be going on. M2 had once said any type of artistic person goes through 3 levels. There's imitation to emulation to innovation. So that basically you start doing something. When I started making beats, if we go through all my ASR 10 discs from 1994, 99.8% of these beats all sound like Primo, because that was like who I was looking up to. That's who, these are before the YouTube days where you could just look up and see how somebody did something. You had to try to figure it out for yourself. But if you keep working on it, you eventually get to emulation, where you start kind of now finding yourself. You're still using a little bit of what you was your muse, but you're starting to find yourself. And if you keep going at it, you get the innovation, which now you have your own sound, your own style. I think what's happening is a lot of these kids just stay in the imitation phase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what it is, there's the 10,000 hour rule. That is basically, if you do 10,000 hours of something, you will become an expert. I have my 10,000 hours in of making beats. You know what I mean? So if I popped in a beat tape from 1994 to what you hear from me now, totally different stuff. But not too many people get to their 10,000 hours. So you just get stuck in that stage because they're not trying to get better. I think about it like this. Vague, you're an MC. Same thing, Ralph. When I used to rhyme, I wanted to get better because the people I were around were dope. You know what I mean? But if I just came out with the first rhyme that I wrote and everybody was like, yo, that's the shit, nigga. You ain't got to get better. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm not going to be putting in 10,000 hours. I'm not going to be, whatever rhyme I write, that's the rhyme for the song. So I don't think a lot of the newer artists that we have out here are even getting to the second stage of creativity. They're just in the imitation stage. These producers are like, oh, niggas want these drumless beats like Alchemist. That's what I'm going to do. And like you said, Vake, anybody could do that. I heard Ransom once rhyming over the Johnny Gill joint off the Boomerang soundtrack. There you go. He had just looped that up and was spitting over it. Shit sounded crazy because Ransom is a beast, but nigga, you still just rhyming over something that my daughter could have looped up. You know what I mean? So nobody is I've spent the time to be like, okay, how do I get these drums to fit in the pocket? How do I get my drums to swing? How do I get the sample to fit right on my drums? How do I add these little pieces over here to it? These other producers aren't doing that. They're just like, let me just loop up fucking Boys II Men, End of the Road, speed that shit up some and give it to a rapper. And the rapper's just like, all right, cool. So you're not, these newer producers aren't getting to their 10,000 hours because they're not spending time to get better, because what I'm doing, if all I had to do in 1994 was just loop up just the two of us and niggas would have taken that shit, I'm not getting no 10,000 hours in.
Right.
Because I can make 10 beats in an hour. If all y'all want me to do is just go loop up some shit, I can make 10 of them in a day. Like, nigga, I'm Alchemist. I'm banging out 20 albums a year. If that's all I got to do, so I think that's one of the reasons too, biting is here, because nobody is actually spending time to get better. I was with these 2 film students. I went to talk to American University. Couple of nonprofits had to come in and pitch to a film class, like, why you should come do your student film to graduate with us. And out of the class, 3 of them picked Horton's kids, where I work at. And I was talking with them today, and I was like, yeah, we were just talking about the titles and everything. And I was like, dog, y'all are in film school to be directors. How do you feel if a nigga with an iPhone just start calling himself a director? And one of the dudes made a great point. He said, well, if he put the time in to study the craft, then I don't mind you having that title. Like, just because I went to American and I have the degree, it doesn't matter if you put in the time. You know, if you started shooting with your iPhone and you went to YouTube and you kept practicing and you kept getting better and you honed your craft, then I don't mind you having the same title I do, even though I'm $100,000 in debt and have a degree. But it's really about the time you spent, you know, really working on your craft, you know. And I would love to see if a lot of these drum looping producers, I just call them loopers, they ain't even producers to me. If I put you in front of the machine, could you actually program some drums? Could you chop up the sample? Could you actually make a whole song? Or would you just be sitting there like, shit, I just know how to loop it up? One of my homegirls, we was at my man Shiraz's baby shower, and my homegirl Tasha from Brooklyn, we both had our cameras out. And she was like, Kill, so what do you shoot on? And I was like, shit, I shoot on auto. She looked at me like I was a fucking dumbass. Like, nigga, like, no, she was like, no, but what aperture? And I was like, auto? And it was like, nigga, you ain't no photographer. Sit your ass down. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I just respect the title. People say, Kill, you're a good photographer. I take good pictures. That's what I do. I'm not a photographer. I don't, because I haven't taken the time to learn that. Not saying you have to go to film school or any of those things, but have you actually put in the time? Vague and Ralph, y'all didn't go to rap school, but y'all put in the time working on your craft to get better and to get better and to get better. So I think that that's the thing. And I just challenge people out there, find that's cool, loop up your shit, but still be able to do something else. You know, don't be the one trick pony. Don't be the person who can only shoot, you know, threes and that's all you're good for. You know, get a post game, you know, get a mid-range game, work on your handle, like become an all-around player. So that's it. Rel, where can they get at you, man? What's going on with you?
Uptown Rel 215 on the gram, JBen 215 on Twitter. Go Birds. Go Birds. It's a beautiful time right now.
Beautiful time to be alive. Beautiful time. There's only one Giants fan on here, so you know, sorry, JR, but you know, thank you for Saquon.
Thanks for Saquon.
Yeah, you guys saved the day. Love your GM. JR, where can they get at you, brother?
You can follow me, JR's World of Soul on Instagram and Twitter. R&B Raps. We got a new show out. We calling it Fan Culture, No Stand Culture. So we got people that's gonna come on and talk about an artist. We're gonna ask y'all some few questions about it, good and bad, and it's gonna get people talking, keep the conversation going. So that's dope. So we got some new merch, new shirts on the website rnbreps.com. So check us out there.
Vague, where can I get at you? I'm sorry. I gotta show y'all something. I'm not really sure what the fuck is going on here. With this. What is this nigga wearing? Are these thigh high boots on a nigga?
Who is that?
Who's that?
That's Jagged Edge.
Yeah, that's trash. Yeah, that's
it's an intimate evening with Jagged Edge. They going on tour, and I just saw some shiny boots.
Which one is it? Who? Is it Brian?
I don't know these niggas' names. It looked like it's one of the twins.
That looked like Brandon. Yeah.
Well, Brandon's name may be Sharon now, so I don't know anymore. But you know, I can't call. You know, these niggas used to have on Timbs. Now these niggas got on shiny thigh high boots. Let me just be quiet before I get canceled. Veg, where can I get at you, bro?
Man, niggas dressing like wrestlers and shit.
Nigga. You know I do not want an intimate evening with y'all niggas. I am good.
That's like Axe and Smash, Demolition, right? Crazy.
Got the Axe and Smash.
Yo, I ain't heard Demolition's name. Oh my God. People watching this. What happens when the Eagles win the Super Bowl? Niggas start bugging. So Axe is smash, man. I'm sorry, Veg. Where can they get at you, bro?
You can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC, and also check out my podcast also on YouTube at Hip Hop Now Podcast.
Y'all know what it is with me. Kill 889 Twitter, IG. Niggas, stop wearing thigh-high boots. Go listen to Purple Planets and tell me if you could understand what they was talking about. And then let's go watch some old school wrestling with Axe and Smash. And like Rel said, go Birds, man. We check y'all next week, y'all.
Yeah.